Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome to another 3 hours of random Fallout New Vegas locations. If you've watched the last two videos, or if you've watched my Unexplored Mojave series, you know what to expect. This is a compilation of all of my Unexplored Mojave episodes, and this is part 3. So it'll just feature random locations from across New Vegas, and the purpose of this video is just to sit back, relax, and enjoy some random Fallout locations. Hopefully you can learn a thing or two. Hopefully it can help you sleep or help you focus. Whatever it is you need it for, here it is. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be looking at the Junction 15 railway station. This is recommended to me by Loken Joside, who has been a huge supporter of the channel, so thank you so much for the recommendation, and thank you so much for watching all of my videos and supporting this channel. Now this location has a lot of death claws, and as you can see here, I got swarmed because I underestimated this location. So if you come here, be prepared to fight a lot of death claws. This is close to Quarry Junction. So on my second attempt, I was able to use the anti-material rifle with explosive rounds to efficiently and quietly take out all of the death claws. So that would be my recommended course of action when coming to this location. So as I just said, this location is near Quarry Junction. This is at the northern end of Quarry Junction. So at the southern end you have Sloan, and at the northern end you have the Railway 15 railway station. So here there's going to be a lot of death claws, of course, as you saw earlier, but if you come in and you can sneak and you can be quiet and use some kind of ranged weapon, there shouldn't be too much trouble in killing the death claws. The first time I came here, I just underestimated the amount of death claws and I got caught up in a bad situation. Also, this place is prone to Legion attacks or NCR attacks if you're an enemy with one of those factions. And here you can see the location on the mini-map, just north of Quarry Junction and south of New Vegas. And you can get some really good views of New Vegas along with the Tops billboard along the highway. And then you can see there's another death claw that was trying to sneak up on me, but thankfully, thanks to VATS and my perception, I was able to make quick work of this death claw. Also thanks to Raul and Rex for helping me out. But rather unfortunately, there is not much loot at this location besides some junk and of course a Sunset Star Sarsaparilla bottle cap if you need it. But of course this location serves as a good place to get some XP from the death claws nearby. But unfortunately there's not a whole lot here, but of course it's kind of reminiscent of the train stations in Fallout 76. But of course Fallout 76 was developed way after Fallout New Vegas, so there's probably no connection. But nonetheless, a pretty interesting place that provides a challenge to the player. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please leave them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Hunter's Farm. This is kind of a remote location located towards the center of the Mojave Wasteland. Now, sometimes when you come to Hunter's Farm, you will find death claws or legionaries or powder gangers. For me, I found a bunch of dead powder gangers and a bunch of dead geckos. So I don't know what went down, but obviously nobody survived. Here's the location on the map. It's really just in the center, right in line with Camp McCarran. So, pretty difficult area because of all the death claws, and sometimes you can find about 4 death claws around this location, which can make it quite challenging for any player, but if you're more experienced or higher level, it won't be as troublesome. Inside, there's not a whole lot of loot besides 2 Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle caps, which is pretty good if you're hunting for those bottle caps for the quest, of course. But besides that, we can find a refrigerator full of alcohol and a ton of Sunset Sarsaparilla. So whoever was living here was perhaps trying to collect 50 Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle caps for the challenge. Now this location can actually be used as player housing because nobody lives here and all of the storage containers are safe. And there's a lot of storage containers along with a bed that the player can use. Plus, it is centrally located, so it might make a really optimal place for player housing. Just an interesting idea, but a place I've never utilized. However, as I mentioned before, this place comes with a lot of potential enemies. So one thing to consider if you want to use it for housing. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Whittaker Farmstead. And on your way to Whittaker Farmstead, you will find this abandoned farm that has an abandoned car, but we cannot go inside, so it's just purely aesthetic. Now this is next to a large farming field where we have some kind of crop growing. I'm not sure what kind of crop, but here we can see Whittaker Farmstead on the map. It's just to the west of the Hunter's Farm, which was the last video. Perhaps it is corn or something, but the player cannot take whatever this crop is like other crops in Fallout New Vegas. But we do get some very beautiful views of New Vegas. Following along the road, you will see a windmill and a crashed truck. And as you can see here, I'm trying to go up to the crops to pick it, but it won't let me. So then we can see the house in the distance, and this house is Whittaker Farmstead. Outside is a unique giant gnome. So the player can take it and use it as decoration if they want. And then there's also going to be some powder gangers here because this place is near Vault 19. And I took out all the powder gangers. Now behind this swing set you can see two graves, and there's also a cooking Brahmin. So the two graves were probably the previous owners of the farm, and maybe the powder gangers killed them, although I think it would be weird if the powder gangers actually buried them. So maybe they were not killed by powder gangers. Now inside we can find some supplies, battle caps, and ammo, and there's also a note underneath this buff out, and the note reads, Ranger Holodisk Message. We're cut off from the rest of the platoon, and there are legionaries all over the place. There's no chance we can get out of here before they blow the town, so we're going to hold out against them as long as we can. If anyone ever gets this, I'd like to make sure that Private Jeffrey Hugh and Corporal Marcus Christensen are commended for their valor and sacrifice. Both have upheld the ideas and honor of the New California Republic with distinction. Ranger Teresa Lutz out. Now, if this holotape seems weird to you, then that's because it is. It was actually an programming error. So this note can also be found in Boulder City, which is where it's really supposed to be. And here the note was supposed to be from powder gangers, talking about one of the powder ganger leaders, Samuel Cook, and how he was taking his gang to check on Vault 19, and he asked a few of the powder gangers to stay behind and to keep an eye on things until they returned. However, this was not included because of a programming error, but the original message can still be found within the game's files. Also inside Whittaker Farmstead, you can find a copy of Future Weapons Today, but besides that, there is not a lot of loot. Now, as you can see here, we're heading south, and there's like a shack that is sinking into the ground, and we also have a destroyed house that is also kind of sinking into the ground. Now, inside this house is a buried refrigerator, but there's nothing like inside the refrigerator, but it's kind of interesting. Now, if you come over here, you have to be really careful, because I didn't realize this, but there are a lot of death claws over here. In fact, there's even like a cave where the death claws live. So make sure you come prepared if you have to or want to fight the death claws. And since I wasn't ready to fight the death claws, I actually got surprised by a death claw here. So I killed that death claw. And then out of nowhere, I thought it was over, and this death claw just came over and swiped me. And that was that. But there's not so many death claws, maybe only 4 to 5, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are. And you can see here, there's 2 death claws in this cave. So using explosive rounds and sneaking on the anti-material rifle, and we're able to kill them very easily. Now, some Deathclaws will wander out of the cave and go far away, and some of them can even make it to Whittaker Farmstead, so be careful if you come to this area. But as you can see here, I was able to wipe out all the death claws pretty easily once I realized they were here. I had no prior information about this location, and it's an unmarked location, so I thought it was really cool to discover it and to have to kill all the death claws. But unfortunately, we don't get anything for killing the death claws. There's no loot. If we venture over back towards the farmstead, we can find an abandoned camper, which also has a campfire next to it with a bed inside, some chairs, and a barbecue. So kind of interesting, kind of peaceful area to relax and crack open a sunset sarsaparilla. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Zapp's neon signs, and this place was recommended to me by Wesley Cassette. This is a location within the South Vegas ruins. Now there are several entrances into the ruins. I came in from the east, and there are two main buildings within the ruins. You have Zapp's neon signs, which is actually an unmarked location on the world map, and Vault 3. Now, some of you have requested videos on some of the vaults within New Vegas on the Unexplored Mojave. However, I just wanted to say I actually have another series planned for the vaults, both in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and Fallout New Vegas. So that should hopefully come out in the future. Anyways, if you've ever been to the South Vegas ruins, you know there's a lot of fiends here that are hostile to the player. Now, if you enter Vault 3, you can actually make it so the fiends are not hostile to you within Vault 3, because you can sell chems or drugs to the fiends. And of course, as the name would imply, there are tons of neon signs around this area. And we can see a variety of businesses within the New Vegas area that would have requested signs, from restaurants to hotels to dry cleaners, all kinds of businesses. So it's kind of a cool place to see some of the businesses and some of the names associated with those businesses. For example, here we have Junction Motel, which leads me to believe that perhaps it was going to be used at the I-15 junction or something like that, but it was never built because of the atomic bombs. Inside Zapp's neon signs, we will find a lot of fiends, including a unique NPC named Duke. Now, Duke has very evil karma and a lot of health, but the player cannot interact with him. Over here, we can find a rigged terminal, which is ironic because in my previous Fallout 3 video, I said I don't think there's any rigged terminals in New Vegas. Well, yes, there is. Another thing in Fallout 3 is I forgot terminals can be booby-trapped, like so. When you try to activate them, they explode. I don't believe there is any such mechanic in Fallout New Vegas. So I definitely ate my words there, but I do believe rigged terminals to be much more rare within Fallout New Vegas. And setting off the rigged terminal was actually beneficial because it destroyed the grenade trap on the staircase. Now there's a lot of traps at the entrance of this place, so the player must be careful when they visit here. As you can see here, Rex decided to go on a rampage and kill most of the fiends for me, which is incredibly nice of him. After going down the staircase, you'll enter this main chamber. Normally there's a lot more fiends in here, but Rex killed most of them. And here you can see Duke, but he was somewhat easy to kill with an anti-material rifle, but he still took 3 bullets from the anti-material rifle, which is a lot. So definitely he has a lot of health. Now, kind of a disappointing thing about this place is there's not a lot of good loot. You do have a bumper sword and some ammunition, along with 2 bottles of Nuka-Cola quartz. But besides that, there isn't a whole lot in here that is really worth the player's time, but it is nonetheless a very interesting location. Now we can use this terminal, and this terminal actually says that the business is named McMurray's Neon Sign Designs, not Zapp's, which is kind of interesting, and this is likely a reference to one of the developers, Denise McMurray. Anyways, on this terminal we can find invoices for orders that were never fulfilled, along with some incident reports. We can find one in which a worker named Kevin dropped a glass tube and cut his hand, very bad, and the manager is considering firing Richard for his incompetence. Also, we learned that another employee got stuck in the elevator and something fell over when the elevator got stuck, breaking Jonathan's leg. So kind of interesting that there was some big incidents happening at this place as far as workplace safety. And then over here we can find the Nuka-Cola quartz. And there's also a medical kit in here that had some stim packs for me. But besides that, not a whole lot of loot. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Ultra Luxe Casino, officially known as the Ultra Luxe Las Vegas Resort. This location was recommended by Vexel256, so thank you so much for the recommendation, Vexel. Now, the Ultra Luxe is by far and large the fanciest casino on the Strip. It's the most expensive, it has the highest limit as far as caps that the player can earn from gambling, and it's well known for its food and gourmet meat. Now, as you can see, quite obviously, the Ultra Luxe takes a lot of inspiration from the Bellagio. They're almost identical in their design. It's also worth mentioning that Caesar's Palace probably also played a role as far as influence, and of course Caesar is one of the most important characters within Fallout New Vegas. So heading into the Ultra Luxe, you'll notice it's the only casino on the Strip where you actually need a sneak skill of 50 to bring in your holdout weapons, right? Your hidden secret weapons. The rest of the casinos you can simply just lie, but the Ultra Luxe has better security. So the white glove greeter cannot be tricked unless you have 50 sneak. So obviously in this main room we can see a lot of gamblers and travelers enjoying the luxuries that the Ultra Luxe has to offer and escaping from the brutal wasteland. Over here we have a dealer, white glove dealer, who for some reason was unconscious and then was possessed by a demon as she woke up. So kind of an interesting glitch and something I've never seen before. But I really like this entrance area where you have all of the gambling along with a bar, and it just has a really cool and luxurious atmosphere.
Hello there.
And then over sitting at the bar, we have Heck Gunderson, who is a cattle rancher. I guess that's what we call Brahmin. And then he will tell us that his son has gone missing, and he suspects some nefarious actions by the White Glove Society. He will task you with finding his son, and this will lead you down a deep rabbit hole of a quest where you can learn about a previous private investigator who was killed by the White Glove Society, and you can learn that the White Glove Society, which used to be a tribe, and this tribe partaked in cannibalism, and now some of the members want to return to cannibalism. However, most of the members will be against it. Here we can say Mortimer, and he is the cannibal. He wants to return to cannibalism and encourage his fellow members to go with him. However, you can obviously choose to not side with him and to make sure that the White Glove Society does not go to cannibalism. Now we're going to see a lot of these copy and paste pictures around the Ultra Luxe. You can see more in this room. These pictures are also used in Fallout 3 as decoration. Up here we can see where all the hotel rooms are. This one is locked and it's a part of the quest, and that is where the private investigator was murdered. Inside this room we can see gamblers. Now I do have to say the hotel rooms within the Ultra Luxe feel a lot more lived in. Here we have the suite that the player can unlock if they earn over 11,500 caps at the Ultra Luxe Casino. It is the reward for earning a lot of caps and gambling at the casino. It's a pretty nice hotel room, however you cannot take anything inside of it because it's considered stealing. And as I said earlier, all of these hotel rooms feel very lived in. There's a lot of people inside of them. People are obviously sleeping in them. And I think it's funny that all of the hotel rooms have like 3 to 4 people in them, probably hinting at the fact that this place is very expensive and that most normal wastelanders cannot afford to stay here. So they're probably sharing it with friends or family. Then we can move on to the pool area, and this pool appears to be very warm or heated because there's a lot of steam coming out of it. And if you swim down, you could actually drown yourself in this pool. which is pretty funny because it's pretty shallow. Now, throughout the Ultra Luxe, like with other casinos, you will notice that there's newspapers plastered around. This newspaper is about the Gomorrah Hotel. Over here we have a bar area that is not staffed, but we can see that they would probably sell drinks or other items you might need in a pool, towels, and what have you. Here we can see there's like a sauna, or it's called a steam room here, and this is also part of the quest where you can go in here to learn more information about the cannibalism which is taking place. And then this person remarked about how expensive the Ultra Luxe truly is. But I mean, hey, that is the price we pay for having such luxury within the Mojave Wasteland. Then the other exit just takes us back to the main lobby. Now I want to show off the presidential suite, which is a hard lock, or the key can be pickpocketed from Mortimer. But I wanted to show it because in my opinion, this is the nicest presidential suite within the game, even nicer than the tops. Now, this room is being used by Heck Gunderson, the Brahmin Baron, who we talked to earlier about his missing son. In here, we can find his guards, and his guards will attack you if you enter here. So be aware of that. Make sure you have some weapons or companions to help you in the fight. Now, within this hotel, we can find a large swimming pool in the central area, along with a large dining and kitchen area. It's really cool that this place has a swimming pool, and I really wish there was a way to make this the players, right? In the Tops Casino, of course, House gives us his presidential suite. I really wish there was a way that this could be the players' housing, and we could send our companions here for some pretty amazing parties. Up here, there's a safe with some bottle caps in it, and this is like the master bedroom area. We have a large bed and like a bar, and then of course we have a bathroom. So a really cool hotel room, but unfortunately it is owned by Heck Gunderson. Moving on to the Gourmand, which is the restaurant within the Ultra Luxe. We have a very luxurious restaurant, and there's a lot of foods that we can get here that are very rare within the Mojave Wasteland, such as the Mojave Omelette. So it's a pretty cool place to pick up some food, and it's obviously very nice and very luxurious. Now this is a very important area for the quest because the door to the kitchen will allow us to rescue Heck Gunderson's son. So by crouching, I was able to become hidden, and then I could pick the lock in order to get inside. It is only an easy lock, so it's pretty easy to pick, as you can see here. Once in the kitchen, none of the NPCs will be hostile to us, despite the fact we shouldn't be here, and despite the fact that they have a human they are preparing to eat. But we can actually be confronted by one of the white glove guards as we go into the lower levels of the kitchen, as we can see here. However, we can convince this man that we are either a repairman or that we are being sent by Mortimer himself to move the kid who is going to be eaten. Later, we can find Felipe, who has some very funny dialogue.
Stand there drooling. Oh, really? So despite your filthy face and your vacant expression and your complete lack of human dignity, you're What kind of harebrained fucking psychobabble bullshit is that? I yell at people because I like yelling at people, and because they fucking deserve it. Not because Mumsy and Daddykins didn't hug me enough. Oh, I see how it is. You think because my father walked out on us when I was 5, now I have to yell at people. Or because my mother was a deranged chem fiend who regularly brought strange men home who told me to call them uncle. Or because my sisters would lock me in a shipping crate when they didn't want me around. And my brother... God, I'd forgotten about that. How could they do that to me? I can't stay here. I need to be alone. How could they treat me like...
And then after this dialogue, I actually leveled up, so I think that's one of the best ways to level up within New Vegas. Here we have a door that requires a key, or we can pass an easy terminal lock, and then we can open the door and rescue Ted Gunderson. After that, we can return him to his father, and his father will give us a hefty reward for saving him. And after talking to Tech Gunderson, he will tell us that he wants to stop shipping Brahmin meat to New Vegas. However, this is probably a bad thing because it would cause a mass food issue within New Vegas. So convincing him to keep his shipments to New Vegas will cause you to be idolized by the White Glove Society and will give you a reputation gain within New Vegas. And one more thing I wanted to mention real quick is the White Glove Society members only room. I didn't access this during the quest because I didn't do the quest properly, but this is just a room with a large dining table exclusive for members of the White Glove Society where they can enjoy delectable meat. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Wynn's Hideout, which is a very unique location within Fallout New Vegas. It is unmarked, and I honestly had no clue it existed until it was recommended to me by Nova613 and Wesley Gossett, so thank you both for the recommendation. So let's check out Wynn's Hideout. So Wynn's Hideout, as I said, is unmarked. It's located west of H&H Tools and just north of West Side, on the northern part of New Vegas. Just outside the shack, we can find this abandoned, smaller shack, which has 2 ammunition boxes, a sofa, which the player cannot sit on, and then a tricycle and a washing machine. I'm not too familiar with so many washing machines in New Vegas, so I thought it was a little bit interesting to see one out here in the wasteland. And just outside of Wynn's Hideout, we will find a mailbox with a copy of Lad's Life. Now inside we will find Sammy and Pauline Wynns, who have some interesting dialogue, so I'll go ahead and let that play.
What are you doing here, stranger? You looking to start some trouble? Me? I'm Sammy, of Sammy and Pauline, the Wasteland's most dangerous and notorious criminal duo. You better not mess with us or you'll end up face down in a shallow grave. Simple. Up until now, we committed our crimes stealthily, leaving no evidence behind, so we never built a rep. But that's gonna change with our next score. You just wait and see. You'll have to ask Pauline about that. She's the brains of our operation. I'm the muscle.
You best not try any funny business, stranger. One word from me, and Vance will plant you in the ground. I'm Pauline, of Sammy and Pauline, the Wasteland's most dangerous and notorious criminal couple. You'd best not mess with us, or you'll have a bullet hole where your eye used to be. We ain't never heard of you either, so the not being impressed is mutual. Come a week or so, though, and everyone will have heard of Sammy and Pauline. Just you wait. Sammy and me got our hands on a powerful weapon not too long ago. Vance's gun. You know Vance, of Vance and Vicky? That gun's our shot at the big time. We're gonna sneak it in on the strip and rob one of the casinos. Maybe all of them. We'll be known as the greatest gunslingers to ever terrorize the wastelands. You'll see. You'll feel stupid that you made fun of us when you learn how rich we are. Really? You think so? We've only got the one gun and there's 2 of us. And we've never done anything like this before. We've never been on the strip either, so we don't know how many guards the casinos have. And I kept having these nightmares. What are we thinking? We're gonna get ourselves killed. Look, tell Sammy to give you the gun, all right? Just take it. I don't want it around tempting us to do something stupid. Yeah, bye.
They say those robots on the strip are running around with... This better be good, stranger. Really? Oh, thank God. I love that woman, but I swear this time she was gonna get us killed. The gun's in the safe. The combination's 5, 23, 34. Take it far away from here before she changes her mind. See you.
So if you have 55 speech, you can get the unique submachine gun, Vance's 9mm submachine gun, which is actually a really good weapon for 9mm ammo. And you'll also notice that anything in this room is lootable. Nothing is considered stealing if you take it, which is kind of interesting, so the player can take anything they want. Now, if you can't tell, this couple is a reference to the real-life Bonnie and Clyde. And of course, Bonnie and Clyde are extremely famous American bandits who were a couple. They were guilty of several robberies and at least 13 murders. So very famous within American culture, and we can see a reference here. Now, I wanted to quickly check out the area around here where we can find some Jackal gang members, and we can see the 9mm submachine gun, which did a really good job at getting rid of them very quickly. Now, these gang members are in a small shack, and if you make your way to this shack, there's actually an average locked medical kit that we can unlock to get some pretty good chems and, of course, some stim packs, so not bad at all. And if we go further north, we will find yet another abandoned shack, but we cannot go inside, unfortunately. And just north of here is the entrance to Zion Canyon. And next to Zion Canyon, or at least the entrance, there is an unmarked grave in which we can find some ammunition, but not a whole lot up here. Now, before ending the video, I wanted to give some more interesting bits of information. Now, the weapon that we get from the Wynn couple, Vance's submachine gun, was stolen from Primm within the Vicky and Vance casino. And in the Fallout universe, Vicky and Vance are actually Bonnie and Clyde, so the casino in Primm is named after Vicky and Vance. And then Vicky and Vance Casino is based on the real-world Whiskey Pete Casino in Primm. So Vicky and Vance is based on the real-world thing. And additionally, in Whiskey Pete Casino is the real-life Bonnie and Clyde car that they used when they were committing their robberies, and it still has the bullet holes in it. And in Fallout New Vegas, the Vicky and Vance Casino, of course, has the Vicky and Vance car within the casino. And additionally, the code to the safe that Sammy Wynn gives us, 052334, is actually the date in which Bonnie and Clyde were killed, May 23rd, 1934. So obviously Obsidian gave a lot of attention to real-world details, which is just really cool, and it kind of gives some kind of authenticity to Fallout New Vegas. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out H&H Tool Company. Now this is a location that was requested by the Folly 7 and Certain Fruit. So thank you both so much for the recommendation, and this was a really cool location to check out. I vaguely knew about this location, but I didn't know about all of the lore that was connected to it. So one of the first big things is that H&H Tools was owned by Anthony House, who was the half-brother of Robert House, of course the owner of Robco Industries and one of the major factions within Fallout New Vegas. Now, Robert and Anthony House had a very bad relationship despite being brothers. When their father tragically died in an accident, Anthony House swindled Robert House out of his entire fortune, and so Robert House had to restart and was a self-made man. And because of this, Anthony House became incredibly paranoid for the rest of his life, and we can see evidence of that paranoia still in the Mojave Wasteland at H&H Tools. So heading inside to H&H Tools, we will find various terminals scattered around this decaying building. And these terminals give a lot of evidence as to Anthony House's poor mental status. So for example, on this terminal we can see 3 HR emails that show just how far Anthony House had deteriorated. Effective immediately, the following company policies are in place. 1. All cameras are forbidden in office areas and on the factory floor. 2. No more than 3 employees are permitted to the break rooms at any time. 3. In accordance with the wishes of management, all bathrooms have been sealed off and walled over. Employees are requested to attend all waste disposal needs before or after work hours. If you have any questions about these policies, please email Human Resources. Thank you. Cindy Lou Krebs, H&H Tools, Human Resources.
Hello again, everybody. Mr. H has requested that the following rules be added to the H&H Tools employee policies. Please note that these rules are effective immediately. 1. Employees will conduct all spoken language business in English. Yes, this includes dealing with international clients. 2. Rooftop access is strictly prohibited. 3. All employees must submit to random DNA screenings to isolate the traitor gene. Cindy Lou Krebs, H&H Tools Human Resources. Hello fellow H&H employees. Mr. H has asked me to pass on the details of our new security systems. This is very important, so please read it and confirm via email that you understand the procedures. 1. Automated heavy turrets have been installed in both cubicle areas. The central catwalk and outside Mr. H's office, you must have your ID pass on you at all times or the turrets will open fire, and we certainly don't want that, do we? Remember, no sudden movements until you hear the click. That means the turret has recognized your ID signature and you're safe to pass. 2. Employees must submit at least one of the following on the first payday of each month. 1 vial of blood, 20 nail clippings, toenail or fingernail is fine, but not a mix of both. 1 lock of hair or a 5 square centimeter skin sample. These samples will be retained for monitoring purposes. 3. Any employees seen to be cohabitating, colluding, or cogitating with any of the following groups will be terminated immediately. Foreigners, masons, carpenters, tragic players, illegal aliens, extraterrestrials, or the Flemish. If you see Mr. H in the halls, do not make eye contact. Making eye contact with Mr. H will be seen as an attempt to steal his thought energy and will be grounds for immediate dismissal. Yes, even if Mr. H is wearing his special hat. Thank you all for your patience with our little reorganization. Now, get out there and make the best gosh darn tools in the West. Cindy Lou Krebs, H&H Tools, Human Resources. And on this terminal, we can find a hidden area, which has a journal entry from Anthony House, which reads, "It's worse than I feared. Henderson sent out a 10-point memo outlining the benefits of mechanization and automation. As if I wouldn't know he's been plotting with my half-brother the entire time. I knew he was a weasel dick traitor from the moment I laid eyes on him. Only one thing to do. One thing, and the company, my father's legacy, is safe forever. Cindy Lou will bring him into me, and then I'll make an example. The bastard will learn why you don't cross the house." So as we can clearly see, Anthony House was extremely paranoid and acting all kinds of extremely harsh policy to control his employees because he really believed his half-brother, Robert House, was plotting against him. Now inside the kitchen we can find large stashes of food that the player can still take, and littered throughout this facility are traps. So here we have some frag mines, a shotgun trap, all kinds of things, along with crazed Mr. Handies. So definitely be careful if you visit this place. If we continue investigating some of the terminals, we can see that a lot of the employees are obviously talking about the changes, and they are not happy with it. This email is titled, "What the Jumping Monkey Fuck?" and it reads, "Are you out of your mind? You think they aren't monitoring emails? Don't send that seditious shit my way." So obviously the employees are bickering at each other because they don't want to get in trouble. And if you don't know, the benefits at H&H Tools were quite good, which is why a lot of employees didn't want to quit. They had good pay and good benefits. And in the next room where there was a turret, we can find a lot of office cubicles along with more terminals. Now, I don't really want to go through all of the terminals, but on this terminal, we can find out that a few of the employees, 2 men and a woman, were having an affair. The woman was sleeping with both men, despite the fact that one of them at least was married. So we can see some office shenanigans going on. And then over here, we can see another turret that we can easily destroy. And then we can find the terminal from which that first email was sent, "What the Jumping Monkey Fuck?" And the original email read, "Bob, have you seen these new HR rules? What the hell is going on here? I swear, if this place didn't have great benefits, I'd be out of here. Jack." And a big theme throughout all of these terminals, of course, is employees concerned about the new rules and you can obviously see that they start to notice that their boss is having psychological issues. Now there's also some robo brains in here that we can destroy, and then more mines. So be careful of these because this one actually blew up. I failed to disarm it. On the second floor we can find Anthony House's office. So after disarming some more mines, we can find like his reception area. And on this terminal we can also access a hidden network which has some interesting emails from Anthony House. And this one simply reads, "Cindy Lou can no longer save me." So obviously Anthony House was really kind of off his rocker towards the end, and he didn't trust anyone. Now within his office we can actually find a Lucky 38 VIP key card, and this will grant you access to Robert House's sealed chamber where he's keeping himself alive. And we can also find an average locked terminal. So upon unlocking the terminal, we can of course find some very interesting journal entries from Anthony House. This one reads, "As the years rail on, I find myself missing Father's advice more and more. I wonder if he would be proud of the decisions I've made. But no, such second guessing does me no good. I won't be weighed down by the past, and I won't waste energy on ancient family history, especially when that history isn't really family at all." The next one reads, "I'm beginning to mistrust Henderson. I think he's conspiring with my bastard half-brother to seize the company. I built this company. Damn it, I won't be ousted by some Johnny-come-lately fancy college man with his robots and his degrees. I've asked Cindy Lou to keep an eye on him, to monitor his email for suspicious activity." And the last entry reads, "They've all turned against us, haven't they? Cindy Lou is right. I've had no choice. May God forgive me for what I've done. All my employees, all those people I thought loyal friends. Was I wrong? Am I crazy? I've scattered this journal across all the terminals in the office, just in case. They won't take me without a fight. As soon as I finish this entry, I'm activating the security systems. If you're reading this and you're American, God bless the USA. If you're reading this and you're my brother, see you in hell. Alexander House." Now, I researched and tried to find out why it says Alexander House and not Anthony House, but this could be a mistake by the developers, or it just shows his mental degradation. So, not really sure which it is, but obviously we can see his mental deterioration over time thanks to these journal entries. And on the second floor cubicles, we can find more terminals with entries from Anthony House, one of which reads, "No more haircuts, no more trims. They can use it to steal your thought energy with their eyes. I have a special hat that stops them though. Special hat and special shotgun. Father, why have you stopped talking to me? You always loved him best, didn't you?" So again, we can just see that Anthony House was crazy. Now on the other terminal in this room, we can see some more information about the affair that was going on between some of the co-workers at H&H Tools. But besides that, there's not a whole lot on this floor, but nonetheless a very interesting place. Now before we end this video, I wanted to cover some more interesting information about H&H Tools. So H&H Tools in Fallout New Vegas is based on the real-world Hughes Tool Company, which was founded by Howard Hughes Sr., who was the father of Howard Hughes Jr. Now, Howard Hughes Jr. is the more famous Howard Hughes, who Robert House was based on. So the Hughes Tool Company was a real company, but eventually it was sold off and it no longer exists. Now also we can see a striking resemblance between the Hughes Tool Company and H&H Tools logo. Here we can see H&H Tools and then of course Hughes Tool Company. Huge resemblance between the logos. So a really cool place to visit, and I would recommend checking it out. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Remnants Bunker, or also known as the Enclave Bunker. This is recommended to me by Ian Boykin and Tim Bro. So thank you guys so much for the recommendation. Now in order to access this location, you actually have to complete Arcade Ganon's quest line. Now in order to complete that quest line, you have to go to certain locations with Arcade and then recruit the remnants or former Enclave members that served with Arcade's father.
and once you've recruited them, you'll gain access to the bunker. I actually have a video guide on that quest on my channel from a long time ago. It's one of my more successful videos. Now, as you can see here, I'm actually using a different account because on my main account I haven't completed this quest yet. So here you can see the location of the Remnants Bunker. It's just east of Jacobstown. Upon entering the bunker, you'll notice it uses the same assets from Fallout 3's Enclave base. Now, the main reason most people complete Arcade Ganon's questline is in order to access the Remnants Power Armor. However, you can actually still get the Remnants Power Armor by visiting 2 locations within the Mojave Wasteland, Deathclaw Promontory and Silver Peak Mine. Both locations I've covered in a previous video. Now, inside the bunker, we can see a vertibird with the Enclave insignia on it, which, if you complete this quest, the Remnants will use this vertibird at the Battle for Hoover Dam in order to help the player character. Now, inside one of the lockers, we can find reinforced combat armor, which is pretty darn good, and then various armor in these shielded armor display cases, which is really cool. And I think it's a shame that this kind of display case has never made an appearance in Fallout again. Of course, in Fallout 4 and Fallout 76, you can display your armor. But besides that, there's not much in here. But I did find it interesting. You can take things out of here, and even though it's red, you don't lose karma for stealing it, which I think is kind of weird. And since I've completed this quest, I cannot access the planning room, but it's just a typical kind of Fallout planning room with a map of the Mojave Wasteland. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Basincreek Building. This is located just south of Camp McCarran. Now, at first glance, this building might seem a little bit inconspicuous, and it's definitely a place I didn't know anything about. But a good friend of mine, who goes by the name of Badger, recommended this place for me, and honestly, this place was pretty incredible to research and to learn a lot about. This whole building is a giant Easter egg. So, let's check it out. So as I said, this building looks pretty innocent from the outside. Now, there are some fiends nearby, so be aware of that, but no problem for my companions. Now, here is the location. It's just south of Camp McCarran, right on the runway, actually. And on the outside of the building, you're going to notice a car. And this is a reference to a time when a car crashed into Obsidian's building. So, this building is actually based on an old headquarters for Obsidian Game Studios, the developers of New Vegas. And that's a real story. A car crashed into their building. Going inside, we can find that the ceiling here is collapsed, and going through this door into the main area, we can find ants. And this place is infested with ants, including very small ants. And this is all a reference to an ant infestation which affected Obsidian's headquarters. Here we can find some rad roaches as well. Maybe there were some roaches inside of their headquarters. I couldn't find any information about that. Now, in Obsidian's headquarters, one time the bathroom flooded, and here we can see the bathroom is flooded. However, we cannot enter this room. Also, apparently somebody punched a hole in the wall at their original headquarters, and again, we can see that within this building. So the whole building is just a giant Easter egg. However, of course, the player would never know this if it wasn't for interviews with the New Vegas developers. Now, down this hallway, we can find a locked door to an office, and outside the office is a note that says, "Help me." And if we read the note, it says, "Help, I've locked myself in my office and I can't find the key. Please call the police." So obviously somebody just slid the note under the door, and it looks like they may have died. However, there's no body in here. Maybe it was eaten by the ants. I don't know. There's also some vending machines that had some bottle caps, but unfortunately there's no really good loot here. And over here there's just a collapsed roof. Now, on the second floor, it is supposed to be inaccessible, but if we use some kind of glitch, we can actually get to the top. Several glitches will work. I used reload dashing, which got me to the second floor pretty easily. And then there's a door on the second floor. If we go through this door, we enter a void. This is the door to Null. It enters a void and we can see through all the walls and see everything outside. Here we have this little space between the bathrooms, and this might be a reference to a dead rat that died at Obsidian's headquarters, and the rat died behind a wall, so it stunk really bad and they couldn't get to it. But unfortunately not a whole lot up here. However, if the player chooses to jump off, we get some really weird Dr. Bosch vibes. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. I had a lot of fun making this video, and shout out to Badger for recommending this place. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the California Sunset Drive-In. This is a location next to Primm. Now I was actually exploring Primm for another video when I stumbled across this location. And this is a location that I was not familiar with and just something I kind of stumbled upon and was able to investigate on my own. When I started this series, and we're over 90 episodes now, which is incredible, but when I started this series, this is kind of what I envisioned, where I would just find random locations in the Mojave and just kind of introduce my experience there. So let's check out the California Sunset Drive-In. So as you can see here on the map, this is literally right next to Primm, just southwest of Primm, and it's actually right on the other side of the NCR encampment within Primm. Now here in the camp we can actually find some Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle caps. You can see next to there on the ground next to all of these bottles, Star bottle caps. There's 2 of them, which is pretty good, especially for early game. Up here there is a crashed truck on the side of the road, and I was wondering maybe if this truck was trying to get a view of the drive-in. Doesn't make much sense for the trailer to be really far away then, but you know, nonetheless, I thought it might be a cool idea that this driver was trying to catch a movie. In the parking lot area, we can see various cars that were probably destroyed when the atomic bombs went off. Now, there actually was an atomic detonation really close to this theater at the Mesquite Mountains crater. So these people may have been killed by a nuclear explosion. And just over there to the southwest, we can actually see the Mesquite Mountains and the area where the crater is located. Now, I've never actually been to a drive-in theater, so it's kind of just an old relic of 1950s America. Further up the road, we can find this playground, and I thought this was a really weird location for a playground. We have some toy cars, a teddy bear, kind of spooky vibes, honestly. I don't know why I don't like random teddy bears. And then we have this like random shack underneath the mountain. If we go further up, we can find the entrance to the Lonesome Road DLC. And there's also 2 graves up here where we can loot and get some ammunition. Now, if we head up to the actual entrance to the Lonesome Road DLC, we can find some more loot, but it's mainly just like MREs and some bottle caps and a little bit of ammunition. Now, I did want to say, I was trying to find out if there was actually a drive-in theater in Primm, and it appears there isn't, and I couldn't find anything about there being one a long time ago, so I just think it was added by the developers. However, I did want to say, within the Mojave Desert, there actually is a company that still operates drive-in theaters. So I thought that was pretty cool, because I've never been to a drive-in theater. It's always seemed like a relic of a bygone era to me. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for the next episode, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here. And today we're going to be looking at Primm City. Now, the city of Primm is located in the southwestern portion of the Mojave Wasteland. Most players will be very familiar with Primm because it's a place that you pretty much have to visit if you follow the main quest. Now, of course, an experienced player might not go to Primm, instead trying to, take a faster route towards New Vegas. But most players would have been here during the main quest. But despite that, I wanted to take a look around Primm and try and find things some players might have missed. Now, Primm is of course based on the real-life town of Primm, Nevada. The reason I say Nevada is it's actually quite important to Primm's location. You see, Primm sits right on the border of California and Nevada. So in Primm, they can have casinos and gambling, but on the other side of the border, they cannot. So it makes it a big gambling town for people from California. So within Fallout New Vegas, we can see that there are 2 remaining casinos within Primm. The first casino I want to talk about is the Bison Steve Hotel. However, this casino is out of repair. It's defunct, but it is inhabited by a bunch of convicts. However, once we complete the quest, My Kind of Town, all of the convicts within the hotel will be killed. Now, outside the hotel, the convicts can still live. The other casino is the Vicky and Vance Casino, which has a lot of ties to Bonnie and Clyde. So, let's dive into Primm. So here at the beginning of Primm, we will find a lot of destroyed buildings, and we can actually go into some of these buildings. This building here, this kind of building, is very common within Fallout New Vegas. Now at the top we can find a magazine along with some ammunition crates. Now these ammunition crates have no open animation unlike any other crate within New Vegas. Now wandering around Primm we can find Ruby Nash, who if we talk to can make us a rad scorpion casserole if we bring her rad scorpion poison glands. She tells us that if it's prepared correctly, it will not kill you. So pretty interesting that people have started eating the poison glands of rad scorpions. Also, outside of the courier's office, we can find Daniel Wyand. Now, Daniel here has a lot of connections to the courier because he was actually courier number 4, and he was one of the decoys. However, he was intercepted, shot in the head, and he did not survive, unlike the main character. So, quite interesting, and it is likely that the main character, your courier, and Daniel knew each other at some point. Now inside the Mojave Express office we will find Johnson Nash, who is the husband of Ruby Nash, and of course this is where we can get Eddie, one of my favorite companions within New Vegas, but we have to fix or repair him to be operational. Now Nash can also sell us a lot of goods, including ammunition and aid, so not a bad place to stop by if you need some goods, especially in the early game. But besides that, there is not a whole lot in here, but we can see part of this building has collapsed, which I thought might be quite dangerous. Heading into the Vicky and Vance Casino, I've talked about this in a previous video, talking about the Wynn's Hideout. Now you can have a random, or not really random, but an encounter here with these thugs and Lila. However, if you're not present for the encounter, they will be killed by the people within the casino. Over here we can find Primm Slim, who is a deputy within the Primm Sheriff Department. Now, Primm Slim has a connection to the Wynns because he was attacked by the Wynns when they stole Vance's 9mm from the Vicky and Vance Casino. Now, the Vicky and Vance Casino is based on the real-life Whiskey Pete's Casino in Primm. And Whiskey Pete's Casino actually has the car that Bonnie and Clyde were killed in, and the Vicky and Vance Casino has the car of which Vicky and Vance were killed in. And we can find some history about this car and some other relics. Here we can find Vance's gun, which reads, "The 9mm submachine gun preserved in the glass case to the left of this plaque is the actual weapon Vance carried in a paper-wrapped box under some suitcases in the trunk of his car during his and Vicky's crime spree. Never fired, and luckily untouched by the hail of bullets that ended its notorious owner's life. The weapon's mint condition inspires dread in all who look upon it. Experts speculate that Vance might have killed as many as 50 people had he ever fired the gun, so long as his aim was exact and he was starting off with a full clip, or even more if he had additional ammo clips and remembered to reload." Now, of course, there's a lot of sarcasm within this plaque, very characteristic of New Vegas, and you can also notice that the gun is missing from the case, and that is because it was stolen by the Wynns, a couple who raided the Vicky and Vance casino. Now the player can encounter them and actually acquire Vance's submachine gun, which is actually a very good 9mm weapon within New Vegas, and I've made a video about that location in the Unexplored Mojave. Then over here we can see two mannequins which would have the attire worn by Vicky, and the plaque reads, Vicky's outfit. These replica outfits showed just how conscious Vicky was of the styles of the period. Vicky was well known for her sense of fashion, and her fixation on expensive clothing was thought to be one of the reasons the pair chose a life of crime. And again, if we go to the Wynn's hideout, we can see that Pauline Wynn's is wearing Vicky's replica outfit. And then on the opposite side, we can find a plaque for Vance's outfit, which reads, Vance's outfits. These mannequins display replicas of some of the clothing that was found in the trunk of Vicky and Vance's death car. Vance didn't share Vicky's sense of fashion, and chose to dress himself how he envisioned a gangster would dress. So again, a lot of sarcasm, and of course, Sammy Wynn's can be seen wearing Vance's outfit. Now I want to mention, in my previous video I misstated that Bonnie and Clyde influenced Vicky and Vance. Actually, Bonnie and Clyde are real characters or people within Fallout New Vegas. But in New Vegas, this is based on Vicky and Vance, who were kind of like copycats of Bonnie and Clyde. Then we can see Vicky and Vance's death car, which has a lot of bullet holes in it. In the real-life Whiskey Peak Casino, you can see the Bonnie and Clyde death car, still with a lot of bullet holes, along with some other memorabilia that was used by Bonnie and Clyde. In the back room of the Vicky and Vance Casino, we can see some advertisements that we see in other places of New Vegas, along with a safe that has very minimal loot. And of course, you can go gambling within the Vicky and Vance Casino. Now, across Primm, you can find a lot of dumpsters for whatever reason, and these dumpsters have random loot. Next, we can find the sheriff's house. Now, if you follow the story of the game, the sheriff of Primm was killed by convicts from the NCR Correctional Facility when the convicts escaped and kind of took over part of the town. However, the player can take back the town and reinstate a new sheriff, which will bring back law and peace to Primm. But you can see that the sheriff's house has been ransacked by the convicts. Even though we've appointed a new sheriff, the house is not cleaned up. And then we can see Deputy Beagle's house, who is held hostage by the convicts, and the player can help. And here we can hilariously see that Deputy Beagle was still injured from way in the beginning of my game when he got hurt as I saved his life from the convicts, and yet he is still limping around Primm, so I guess he unfortunately has a permanent injury. Now, using the roller coaster, we can actually get on the front of the roof here of the Bison Steve Hotel, and we can find some chems and alcohol along with a pair of binoculars. So I'd like to think that a convict was up here getting high and watching out for any NCR troops that might put an end to their rule of Primm. Now, while I was exploring, I found a convict at the top of the roller coaster, and I tried to kill him, but I never got any XP for killing him, nor did I see his body fall from the roller coaster. So I found out you can actually walk along the roller coaster and go all the way up from the ground floor. Now, of course, you can access it from the second floor, but it's not necessary if you want to go to the very top. But there was no body at the very top. However, we got a very good view of Primm. So real quick, some interesting trivia. The Bison Steve Hotel is based on the real-life Buffalo Bills Hotel and Casino. And this hotel was actually built fairly recently, within 1994. And this hotel actually features a roller coaster, just like the one in New Vegas. However, in our world, this roller coaster is unfortunately closed. During COVID-19, the casino shut down, and when they reopened 2 years later, the roller coaster never reopened. So I would assume the operating cost is just too much for the casino within this small town. And as I mentioned earlier, the Vicky and Vance Casino is based on the real-life Whiskey Pete's Casino. And of course, Whiskey Pete's Casino holds the infamous car of Bonnie and Clyde. And if you're unfamiliar with Bonnie and Clyde, they are very infamous American convicts or criminals who were killed in a police shootout. Now, something I was definitely wondering is why in the hell is Bonnie and Clyde's car in Primm, Nevada? They were killed in Louisiana, and I found out that in 1988, their cars sold to the owners of the Whiskey Pete Casino at auction for $250,000. So that is how it made its way to Primm, Nevada, a very small town, but a very interesting relic to display at your hotel. Now, on the other end of this big hill on the roller coaster, I wanted to see if we could actually jump and make it to the other part of the roller coaster. However, I just missed it, and even if I took the power armor off, I don't think I would make it because the player kind of phases through that part of the rail. Now, I want to point out, on the lampposts that are fallen over, you can actually see the wires inside the lamppost that is powering the light. So just kind of cool, attention to detail on the part of Obsidian. And then over here we can see the crashed roller coaster, Diablo. And in real life, the roller coaster is called Desperado, so we can see some clear influence in the name. And then over here there was a convict. Now, these convicts do not disappear until you kill them. So in your New Vegas save, if you go to Primm and go on the roller coaster, I'm sure you might see some convicts that are left over that have been there for hundreds of hours just withering away in the Mojave sun. Now, inside Buffalo Steve's Casino, there's this locked room, and we can get some bottle caps and medical supplies. This room might be hard to access for a newer player because of the skill level required to get inside, so I figured I would show it off. Also, inside the gift shop here, we can get a skill book, Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor, which will increase the player's barter skill, which is always really good. And then there's also a hard lock safe in which we can find the unique pistol, Lucky, which is a 357 revolver. So, really good gun and worth quite a few caps. Going to the back of the hotel, we can find the kitchen room where Deputy Beagle is being held, then the cafeteria, which would appear to be an all-you-can-eat place within Primm, and we can see that the convicts were roasting a Brahmin for their dinner. Now, going on to the second floor of the hotel, we can find all of the hotel rooms, and there are several hotel rooms up here, along with a lot of convicts. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, if you complete the quest My Kind of Town and exit Bison Steve's hotel, all of the convicts will just die. Now we can open this door here, which is a very easy lock, in order to get some medical supplies and a doctor's bag. Now there is an Easter egg up here towards the novel and film Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. In one of the hotel rooms, there is a room where you will find two skeletons. One of them is in the bathtub with a knife, and then there's also a suitcase on the bed full of all kinds of drugs, or chems, as they are called in New Vegas. Now, this convict died in a very weird position. I don't know if that always happens, but I just thought it was funny. Then we also have a cabinet, which we can unlock using a key that we found on a convict to get some ammunition. Now, this part of the hotel is in really bad shape, but there is still some decent loot up here, including a lot of medical supplies and some ammunition, and as I mentioned before, there are chems here. Here we can see a skeleton in the bathtub with a lot of chems and alcohol, so probably having a good time as the world ended. Now, something that is worth mentioning is Primm is actually quite close to the detonation of an atomic bomb within New Vegas. Now, New Vegas was largely protected from atomic bombs, but there was one that exploded over the Mesquite Mountains, which is pretty close to Primm. Now, in another hotel room, we can find this ransom note, which reads, Mr. Peterson, if you want to see your wife alive again, bring the cash in small, unmarked bills to the Bison Steve on Tuesday. This note was likely written before the Great War, and this man probably never saw his wife again. Now, if we head towards the southern part of Primm, we can find a bunch of houses which people actually live in, and there's a bunch of mailboxes, and they're just pre-war houses. However, you're not supposed to be in here at night, otherwise the people get mad at you, and they'll follow you around like that man was aggressively doing. But all of these houses are pretty much copy and paste, and just Primm residents are inside. Then the other part of Primm is the NCR encampment. Now the NCR does not, unfortunately, provide much support to Primm, but this can be changed during the quest to get them a sheriff, or you can choose a different route. Now there are a lot of buildings here that are kind of falling apart and in disrepair. However, I couldn't find any real loot within these buildings. They've all been picked through, probably by the NCR themselves. However, there is a bed at the top of this one building that the player can sleep in. Going over to the actual camp, there's another bombed out building. However, this building that's next to the tents, we cannot enter. The back door is blocked off, and the front door has a couch blocking our entrance. So I wonder if there's supposed to be more to this house, but it was scrapped later in development. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something about Primm in New Vegas, or Primm in real life. Now Primm has kind of become a place that a lot of New Vegas fans visit during their kind of pilgrimage to Las Vegas in honor of the New Vegas video game. So, have you ever been to Primm? What was it like? I would like to know. Also, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Samson rock crushing plant. This is a location towards the middle of the map. It is just north of Whittaker Farmstead and just southwest of the Basincreek Building. Now this is not a location I am very familiar with, however it is featured during the quest 3-card bounty, which is one of my favorite NCR quests in the game. So let's check out Samson rock crushing plant. Now as you can see here, I actually haven't discovered the location yet, but just south of Vault 3 and north of Whittaker Farmstead. Now unfortunately none of the buildings here are lootable. You cannot go inside, and there is no loot within the actual crushing plant, but we can see a few rock crushers and a lot of rock-like dust, and of course these mills. However, we cannot jump to the top of them. Now, just to the north, we can see some of the South Vegas ruins, and we will definitely want to check that out because we can go over there and find Nephi, who has a unique weapon on him, and we also need his head for the quest 3-card bounty. So we'll go check that out later, but for now, just looking at the rock crushing plant, there's not a whole lot here, but it's actually in pretty decent shape considering everything else within Fallout. We can see all of the machinery used to break up the rocks, but not a lot here besides just a lot of rocks.
Boulder! It's not just a boulder! It's a rock! A rock!
Now, actually, if we just head southwest towards Whittaker Farmstead, we can find a cave entrance. And this cave entrance is actually a back entrance to Vault 19, which is owned by the Powder Gangers, but it is another entrance into the vault if you want to sneak inside. So, kind of interesting. Now, heading over towards the South Vegas ruins, there's going to be a lot of fiends, and of course they're going to be hostile towards you. I decided to go overkill and use some mini nukes to get rid of some of them. However, this turned out to be a mistake because I couldn't find Nephi's body. So here you see me entering the Fiend camp, and I'm using my anti-material rifle, which is a bit overkill, to kill the Fiends. Which, honestly though, makes it a lot more entertaining. But I started to look for Nephi's body, because I thought I killed him, but I couldn't find it. So what I decided to do was I decided to go back and actually start the quest, 3-card bounty, which we can get at Camp McCarran. And during that quest, you have to claim 3 bounties, and that quest led me straight towards Nephi. And of course, we can get Nephi's golf driver, which is a unique weapon within Fallout New Vegas. Now, one thing I wanted to mention about this location that's pretty cool that I failed to do is that if during the quest 3-card bounty, If Neffy is the last bounty you have to claim, you can actually convince the first recon team at Camp McCarran to support you in killing Neffy. And that squad will actually set up at the Samson rock crushing plant, and they will snipe the fiends from far away, and you can lead Neffy to them in order for him to be killed. So pretty cool. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out Orion Moreno's house, which was recommended to me by Wesley Gossett. So thank you, Wesley, for the recommendation. Now this is an unmarked location within Fallout New Vegas. Now of course during the Arcade Gannon quest line, Moreno is a very important character and you have to convince him to rejoin the Remnants. Now Moreno was a former Enclave soldier who served as a heavy trooper during his younger years. And then here we can see the location of Moreno's house, just south of the gun runners. Now Moreno provides an interesting perspective into the NCR, because Moreno actually does not like the NCR at all. So after the fall of the Enclave due to the Chosen One, Moreno made his way to the Mojave Wasteland and settled in this house before the NCR showed up. Once the NCR showed up, they tried to convince him and force him to leave his house and to take over his land. Of course, Moreno didn't want to leave. This is the place he's called home for several years now. So he has a big grudge against the NCR. Now, Moreno's house does not have a lot of loot, and the loot that it does have is considered stealing if we were to take it. So, not a whole lot there for the player to take, mainly just related to Arcade Gannon's quest. Now, there are two other abandoned houses here, but neither of which the player can enter. And it makes you wonder then, why doesn't the NCR take these abandoned houses, since they want Moreno's house? And maybe the NCR does claim the land here, but we can see they are not maintaining it, and these buildings are in a state of disrepair. However, from this location, we can get some pretty good views of New Vegas and the New Vegas sunset. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comments section below. Until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Aerotech Office Park. This is located near the NCR Sharecropper Farms and the Gun Runners. This is recommended to me by Mr. Max Awesome, and I really liked what Mr. Max said. It's really under your nose, yet right in your face, and this is very true, because this location is very central. It's very close to the New Vegas Strip. However, I think it is a very easy location to miss. And there's also some cool quests within this camp and former office park. Also, I just want to say this is a very beautiful location. I love the lamps that are here, and with the fading sun turning to night, it just looked very beautiful, to me at least. So as I said earlier, Aerotech Office Park is located in the central part of the map, just south of Gun Runners, and near the NCR Sharecropper Farms. Now this used to be an office area, but now it has been converted into a refugee camp by the NCR. And over here we will find Captain Parker, and he will tell us a few things. So first, many of the refugees are people who are unable to get into New Vegas, or they lost all of their money gambling. Second, they have an issue with one of the people within the camp who is probably robbing people of their money by cheating and gambling, and also that some people have gone missing recently. So heading over to one of the former office buildings, we can talk to several junkies, and we can find Keith. And Keith is the one who has been robbing people of their money, and if you have a high enough speech and barter skill, you can find out about his illegal drug trade and his illegal gambling methods. And upon learning this information, we can give it back to Captain Parker, who will then take matters into his own hands and confront Keith during this quest. So going over to the refugee tent, we can find where Captain Parker sleeps, and we can tell him the information that we learned, and he says he's going to go talk to Keith, and he will walk very slowly to Keith. Now, if you tell him that you're going to help him, he'll give you more bottle caps, so it's worth your time. Now, for me to speed him up, I accidentally pointed my gun at him, and then he started running for some reason. So maybe aim your gun at him to speed him up, but after making the journey, he'll have some interesting dialogue with Keith.
In the name of the NCR, I'm placing you under arrest for illicit gambling and the sale of unlicensed chems.
Fuck you, man. I ain't going nowhere with you.
Come quietly now. I don't want to have to hurt you.
Why don't you go cry to your wife then? Oh, that's right. She left your worthless stinking ass.
You son of a bitch! Nelson's back in our hands. I hope we can defend it this time.
And for some reason, the audio or the dialogue glitched because of the Nelson line, for whatever reason. But a little bit anticlimactic, but also pretty funny. So yeah, Captain Parker will kill Keith, which seems a little bit extreme. But, I mean, Keith was resisting arrest, so whatever. Now, moving on to the quest, the Coyotes, we need to head over to West Side, and then we can find St. James and Dermot. And this quest is pretty dark because it involves human trafficking, and these people are trafficking people from the refugee camp, Aerotech Office Park. So, kind of a terrible situation, and of course we can resolve this in a good or bad way. So talking to them will obviously not reveal much, so we need to head over to the apartment building in West Side. And talking to Marcos, we can learn a lot about the apartment building, along with some of the illicit activities going on inside. Now, Westside is not a place that is usually traveled by New Vegas players, maybe. It's easily overlooked, so perhaps in a future episode we will investigate further. Now, inside one of the rooms we can find a ledger, which will tell us about all of these people that have been kidnapped and all kinds of trafficking with young girls and in men. Now, a lot of these people are being sold to Motor Runner, who is buying women for who knows what reason, and Motor Runner is, of course, the leader of the Fiends, located within Vault 3. And heading over to the other apartment room, this one will be locked, St. James's apartment, we can pick the average lock, and inside we will find a teddy bear, which we can use as evidence that children have been being trafficked. So again, some pretty dark and evil stuff going on in here, but as far as evidence, it is the only evidence inside. So once you have the evidence, you can either give it to Captain Parker and he'll deal with the situation, or you can go confront Dermot and St. James yourself. And I decided to go ahead and confront them because my character in this playthrough has very good karma, so I just wanted to get the situation over with and take matters into my own hands. But it was a pretty easy battle because I'm just using an anti-material rifle, and I had Rex and Raoul. Upon returning to Captain Parker and letting him know what happened and handing over the evidence, he'll give you a small reward for your deeds. And now the Aerotech Office Park is of course a safer place because there's no more human trafficking for these refugees. Now, there's still one more building we can investigate. There's one more office building. However, there's not a lot in this building besides some skill magazines that will temporarily boost your skills. Now, I did want to say, though, there are a plethora of aluminum cans or tin cans located here, which might be useful during the quest dealing with Contreras, in which we have to provide over 100 pieces of scrap to complete the quest. Now, Aerotech Office Park has 62 10 cans, which will count as that scrap. So besides that, though, not a lot in this building, but we do have some food and stuff, so may be useful if you're doing a hardcore playthrough. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please put them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be looking at Isaac's house. This is a location to the east of the Gun Runners, right next to the New Vegas Strip and Freeside. Now this location was recommended to me by Wesley Gossett, so thank you very much for the recommendation, Wesley. Now the Hostetler home is also next to Isaac's house, so we will be checking out both houses. So let's dive into it. So first, checking out the Hostetler house, there is a mailbox in the front, and actually looking in these mailboxes might be worth your while because sometimes you'll find skill magazines inside, which are always good to have on hand in case you need to advance a skill temporarily. Inside the house, we can find Mrs. Hostetler, who has some very aggressive dialogue.
Get out before I blow your head off. Whatever you say, stranger. Go snoop somewhere else and get the fuck out of my house, right now. Are you deaf? I don't give a damn about what you want. Just get out of here. Get lost.
Now, upon further investigation, we can learn that her husband, Dawn, works for the Crimson Caravan Company, and that her daughter ran away from home because she was very unhappy with her life at the homestead. And she is now living in the North Vegas Square. Now inside this building there isn't much loot, but there is a large white plate that is unusually large, and the player can pick it up and use it to decorate their house, but the name of the item is just white plate. And also there is a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap inside the Hostetler home. Moving on to Isaac's home, there isn't a whole lot inside of this house, but Isaac, the man who owns the house, actually works for the Gun Runners, and you can actually play Caravan with him, and he's a part of the quest dealing with Contreras, and that quest will send you to this house as well. Now, like I said, there isn't a whole lot inside this house, but there is a glitch with this house where if you walk by the house with an active quest, the quest marker will glitch out and tell you to go inside of the house, but if you walk far enough away, the glitch will end. But overall, not a whole lot inside Isaac's house. Now, to the north of Isaac's house, we can find the Crimson Caravan and the New Vegas Medical Clinic and a lot of abandoned buildings with bombed out and decaying buildings as well. However, there's not much, if anything, inside of these buildings. Now, I wanted to try to get to the top of this highway over here. So using reload dash, I was able to get a huge jump. And then on my fall down, I saved the game. And if you guys don't know, when you save the game in New Vegas, it resets your momentum. So if you're about to die from fall damage, you can save, die, and when you reload into the game, your falling momentum will reset, and you can land safely. However, unfortunately, there is no hit barrier on the highway. So it's purely just a texture for the player to see, and the player cannot interact with it. I was pretty sad to learn that fact. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Nevada Highway Patrol Station. This is recommended to me by K-Wick or KW1C. Not sure which it is, but thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for the recommendation. Now, the Nevada Highway Patrol Station is located along Interstate 15, directly south of Primm. This is a location that many players will encounter in their playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, since it's along the main road if you follow the main story. It has some low-level enemies like jackals, feral ghouls, and giant mantises, making it a good place for early players to get some loot and some XP. So let's check it out. So as I said, it's located just south of Primm, and here you can see it on my Pip-Boy mini-map. And it's pretty easy to get to, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. Now this place is famous for the "fuck you" written on the front doors, just something that's always stuck out to me and something kind of random. Inside the station we can find the area where the police or the highway patrol would be sitting, and then we can find a couple of bathrooms along with a first aid box. As you can tell, I've already looted and cleared out this place. Normally there will be some jackal gang members in here along with some giant mantises, which the player needs to kill. Also, definitely worth grabbing is a copy of Guns of Bullets on one of the desks in the front room, so definitely make sure to pick that up. We have some small loot inside this room, an ammunition box and some Hydra, and then we can also find a Star Sunset Sarsaparilla bottle cap laying next to this dead prospector. I actually forgot to pick it up, but I already have over 50 star bottle caps, so it doesn't really matter for me. Now we can also sleep in here, which is kind of nice, especially on a new playthrough. Then around the back side, we will find Jackal gang members normally, but again, I've already killed them, along with some plants. There's also like this kind of weird shed sticking out the back here, and I accidentally put this tumbleweed inside of it. But we can actually go on top of this building, which I never really realized before. But we can walk up from behind and use the shack, and then we can get on top of the highway patrol station. So kind of interesting. Now, unfortunately, there's not a whole lot we can do up here besides get some views of some billboards and, of course, the Ivanpah Dry Lake. Now, some quick interesting facts about the patrol station. Actually, it is based on a real-life patrol station found in Jean, Nevada. However, geographically speaking, this location is located in the same place as the California Agricultural Inspection Station, which also sits on Interstate 15 near the boundary between California and Nevada. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be looking at the Ivanpah Dry Lake along with the Ivanpah Racetrack. So these are two locations situated within the Ivanpah Dry Lake. So this location is located just south of Primm, and it's right across from the Nevada Highway Patrol Station, which was featured in the last video. So as I was recording this scene, Raul decided to kill an escaped convict or gang member, something like that. But anyways, diving into the video, here is the location of the Ivanpah Dry Lake. And as we can see here, it's just right in between Primm and Nipton. Over here we can see a billboard for the Vicky and Vance Casino, which we talked about in my Primm video. And this just says, see the infamous couple's death car, and authentic memorabilia from the National Crime Spree, or Nationwide Crime Spree, sorry, and then take exit 1 towards Primm. So of course we can see Vicky and Vance's car and some of their memorabilia within the Vicky and Vance Casino. So one of the cooler billboards within Fallout New Vegas. And then on the opposing billboard we can see a very kind of generic billboard for a motor vehicle, some kind of nuclear powered car. Going into the lake bed, you can see Primm off in the distance, and there isn't a whole lot here. It's very barren, but up on this hill, we can actually find an abandoned car, and this abandoned car has a toolbox, which says stash toolbox, but there's nothing inside of it, along with a suitcase. So I don't know why this car ended up here, but it could have easily have crashed when the atomic bombs exploded. There was an atomic explosion at the Mesquite Mountains, which is near this dry lake. As far as enemies, there's going to be a lot of bark scorpions and giant ants located here. And as I made my way towards the middle of the lake, I got attacked by Legion assassins. Obviously, I have a bad reputation with the Legion, so they will occasionally attack me. After they knocked out Boone and Rex, which is very sad, I was able to kill most of them. However, a few of them ran away, and they would actually come back later in the video, as you'll see. Now, normally I avoid this area when I start a new playthrough of New Vegas. I just go along the highway and kind of go around it. I do not really know how difficult these ants are for a new player, but for me, with higher level, these ants were really easy to kill. And as you can see here, we're at the racetrack now. And this racetrack is actually based on a real-life Ivanpah racetrack that you can see from Google Satellites. And also this place is popular with land sailing, and the world record for wind power vehicles was set here back in 2009 at 126 miles per hour. So pretty cool. Now, at the middle of the racetrack, you will notice a hole for ants, assumingly, but we cannot go inside the hole, which is unfortunate. So the only hole that you can go inside of like that is the Scorpion Burrow, located by Crescent Canyon. But here we can see the racetrack, and as I was trying to film this, or get that scenic shot, I was attacked by a Legion member. So after killing him, I went over here to this vehicle. So this vehicle is called the Flea, and it only appears in New Vegas, despite the fact that other vehicles might look a little bit similar to it. It is a one-person vehicle that will explode if shot at. Now, it's not so common in New Vegas, but we can find one here. And there's also another one in the El Dorado Dry Lake, which is kind of interesting that there's two within dry lakes. So maybe they were being used for racing or something. Not sure. But something I definitely wanted to highlight because I don't know when else I'm going to talk about this thing. So real quick, some interesting information. So the Ivanpah Dry Lake is a real location within real life just south of Primm. And this lake will actually fill up with water during like heavy rains. And there's a lot of pictures online of it being filled up with water, as we can see here. And as I mentioned, this racetrack is also a real location, and it's used a lot for land sailing, like wind-powered land vehicles. And again, the world record was set here back in 2009, 126 miles per hour. That's pretty freaking fast, and it's pretty amazing that they can do that right here. There's also a huge solar power plant located here in real life. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations, please post them below. And until next time. Hello, everyone. The Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today, we're going to be looking at the fort. Of course, the fort is a very famous location within Fallout New Vegas, so we're going to see what kind of secrets and maybe hidden areas it has. This was recommended to me by Tim Bro. So thank you so much for the recommendation and for the nice comment. Now, as you can see here, we are viewing the fort from across Lake Mead at Camp Guardian. Now, the fort is a real-life location, and it is called Fortification Hill. Now, Fortification Hill is on the eastern part of the Colorado River, near to the Hoover Dam. It has a prominence of 863 feet, making this a pretty significant hill, more like a small mountain. So, mind the violence, but obviously I am not friendly with the Legion, and Caesar's Legion occupies Fortification Hill, or the fort. So since I'm siding with Mr. House, the Legion is hostile, and I have to kill all of them in order to explore this place safely. Now, interestingly here, Dale will not turn on us, even though he's a traitor working with the Legion. Now, some quick, interesting information about Caesar's Legion. Caesar's Legion is one of the main factions of Fallout New Vegas. It was founded by Edward Solo and Joshua Graham. Edward Solo has gone on to become Caesar, and Joshua Graham was ultimately punished and thrown away, essentially, for his failure at the Battle of Hoover Dam. The tribe is a very imperialistic tribe that has slavery and crucifixion and bases itself on the ideas of the Roman Empire. However, there's some pretty big differences between actual Rome and Caesar's Legion, of course. Now, Caesar's Legion was founded in Arizona, and they're expanding westward where they encountered the NCR, the New California Republic, and New Vegas is in the middle of this war between Caesar's Legion and the NCR. Here at the fort, it is the main fortification for the Legion at Hoover Dam. So Caesar's Legion controls one half, the NCR controls the other half. And around the fort, there really isn't a whole lot you can do, as you've seen from me just walking around. There's a lot of crosses, a lot of soldiers, some slaves, but obviously the soldiers are dead now, thanks to, me and my companions. Now, interestingly, there's this trench in front of the fort, and I never really knew this existed. I kind of just always ignored it on all of my playthroughs. But this trench is very long, and there's even 5mm surplus in it, signifying that the Legion is prepared for some kind of conflict. Also, I found the texture here was a little bit glitched. You can kind of see where they try to sew it together, but there's a little crack. But obviously most players probably don't go down in that trench, and I never really knew it existed. Also, I want to note the trench is very high. It'd be very difficult to look over the top of it, so I think it's just mainly defensive. Now, inside the main area, of course, we have the battle arena, and we have a lot of legionaries that we had to kill. Here we can see Rex kind of like glitched out and became a flying dog. Look at Rex go. What a lad. I love him so much. And just killing a lot of Caesar's Legion. Of course, we have a lot of tents here and beds, but, you know, there's not a whole bunch of loot here. Now, inside the main tent where Caesar is, there's a lot of guards, and they are actually pretty difficult to kill. Thankfully, they all targeted my companions, which allowed me to use my minigun in order to mow them down. But this actually proved to be a really good way to get some quick XP, so I'm glad Timbro recommended this location. Now, on Caesar's body himself, we can get Caesar's armor and a displacer glove. Now, I really wanted Caesar's armor because it's a unique armor set, obviously. I tried to set Caesar back in his chair, but I had some difficulty and just gave up. Now, inside Caesar's bedroom, there's actually a very hard locked safe. And after struggling for about 30 seconds, I was able to get it open, and I found 2,000 caps along with a T-45 power helmet, which is pretty good. Over in this tent, we have some blueprints to Hoover Dam and a lot of pre-war books. So I would like to believe that Caesar's Legion and his top generals are studying the dam, trying to learn its intricacies for the upcoming battle at Hoover Dam. But I really like Caesar's tent. I always thought it was a really cool kind of area, and with the flames and the Legion symbol above Caesar, just a really cool location. To the northwest of Caesar's tent, there's some more tents, but this is an area of the fort that I never really explored before, and there's like a little square in the fence, and then Rex decided to kill somebody, but hey, it's all good. Then obviously we have this lower section of the fort, which is kind of similar to the real-life Fortification Hill. Obviously, Fortification Hill is a mesa. It has a flat top, and we can clearly see the mesa in Fallout New Vegas. There's really cool attention to detail, and really cool how Obsidian used the real-world geography to morph and tell their story of Fallout New Vegas. Now, I leveled up during this attack on the fort. Again, I got a lot of good ammunition. Inside all of these tents, there's some decent loot as far as like anti-venom and ammo. However, it's considered stealing and negative karma to take any of it. And then we have a whole bunch of practice dummies and targets, which is pretty cool. Inside this building, which takes us down to House's upgrade area for his Securitrons, there's some more guards. However, once you've completed the quest, either in favor of Mr. House or in favor of Caesar, you can no longer access the basement area, and unfortunately these terminals over here were broken, so they have no real purpose besides being there for design. And as you can see here, the elevator door to the Securitron vault is no longer active. And then something I never noticed before is that the wheels on the sharpening device are actually spinning. So if you come here and you're not enemies with the Legion, you will see legionaries sharpening their weapons or swords on these wheels, which I always just thought was a really cool addition to Fallout New Vegas. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Now, if you like this video, I'd highly recommend checking out my other fort video called Outside of the Fort, where we use glitches to explore the area outside of the fort, which I think is a very cool video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. The Army of Otters here, and welcome to a special 100th episode of the Unexplored Mojave. I really cannot believe we made it this far, so thank you to everyone who has supported this channel and this series. Today we're going to be looking at the Sierra Madre Casino, along with the villa, the small town beneath the Sierra Madre. Now, of course, this is part of the Dead Money DLC. This was recommended to me and talked a lot about a long time ago by Josh1312. Now, doing the Dead Money DLC was a little bit tricky. One, this DLC is kind of controversial as far as New Vegas is concerned. Some people like it, many people hate it, and I'm kind of in between. And also, I wasn't entirely sure about what to cover in this video. So I want to cover some glitches, some secrets, and take an in-depth look at some of the characters that this DLC has to offer. So, let's jump into Dead Money and the Sierra Madre Casino. So of course, as you try to start Dead Money, you get a warning message telling you that this DLC is hard. And I agree, this DLC is probably the hardest thing within Fallout New Vegas. Now, before going into the Sierra Madre, there is an average locked terminal, which we can of course open, and this will grant us access to this room. And inside this room, we can find all kinds of loot and other items that are somewhat related to Dead Money. And of course, we can see some T-45 power armor down here, signifying the connection to the Brotherhood of Steel. And there's also a blackboard with all kinds of science jargon on it, nothing of which I would ever understand. And then we just have a vending machine that is found within the Sierra Madre. But not a whole lot here. However, we can sleep in this bed, which I thought was kind of interesting. But anyways, moving on to the actual DLC, of course, as we approach the room, the DLC will initiate. Now, while many people do not like Dead Money so much, I do have to say this DLC is aesthetically very pleasing or very well done. It has a very creepy atmosphere. All of the assets are original, so it feels like we are actually discovering a new place. It just has a really cool, authentic, and scary vibe that I really appreciate. New Vegas isn't really that scary in my opinion, unlike Fallout 3, which has a more degraded and horror type kind of feeling. But this DLC definitely feels scary, and you definitely feel on your seat. Now, near the beginning, we can find this sign, which advertises the Cosmic Knife, which is supposed to be a fantastic knife that can do all of your kitchen needs. And then inside, we have a vendor who can sell us various loot. However, since we don't have any caps, they're all taken away from us, we have to do actual trading with him. Now, thankfully in this DLC, there's a lot of pre-war money that you can scavenge, which is actually worth a good amount of caps. So make sure to look through cash registers and water fountains, as you can find Sierra Madre caps. And of course, this DLC features the toxic cloud, which will slowly poison you to death. However, I don't think it's that bad because the damage is pretty small, and it's not like in your face. Usually you can circumvent it somehow. Now, on the second floor of this general store, we can find some Sierra Madre chips, along with a hard locked metal box. But unfortunately, I didn't open the box. I don't know what's in it. However, comparing to some other hard locked metal boxes, there will not be a whole lot inside, besides maybe some Sierra Madre chips or maybe some ammo. So as I said earlier, make sure to loot these water fountains because they will always have Sierra Madre chips inside, which can be very useful. Now, if you get the snow globe located later in the villa area, it'll grant you 2,000 chips. Now, moving on to Dean Domino, who is one of the companions that we have to recruit in order to complete the DLC. Dean Domino here has a very big name within Fallout New Vegas. If you watched my previous videos, you will notice that his poster is littered across the Mojave wasteland, mainly in casinos, and he is a singer. And across New Vegas, we can see his posters in casinos and other locations advertising his performance. And of course, here he is a ghoul. So he's a former star turned into a ghoul. Sound familiar? Anyways, he is actually based on the real-life singer of Dean Martin and Fats Domino. Dean Martin is, of course, a very famous American singer who was active from the 1930s all the way to the 1990s, and he sang the song Ain't That a Kick in the Head, which is one of the themes of Fallout New Vegas. And Fats Domino was an American pianist and one of the pioneers of rock and roll music, and his posters closely resemble the posters of Dean Domino found within Fallout New Vegas. Now, Dean Domino became obsessed with the treasure within the Sierra Madre casino, even going as far to cut out the vocal cords of Christine Royce and replacing her voice with that of Vera Keyes, because he knew he would need Vera's voice in order to open the vault. So he was very obsessed with that treasure inside. Now, it's also worth mentioning that Frederick Sinclair, the man who designed the Sierra Madre Casino, makes an appearance within the Fallout TV show, and that Mr. Sinclair actually allowed Dean Domino to design the villa, or the city part of the Dead Money DLC. So a lot of this design was by Dean Domino, which is why he has all of those supplies hidden around the city, and why he knows the city so well. Now, an item that is really easy to miss, and just kind of a random item, is the acoustic guitar. Now, you can actually steal this item within Fallout New Vegas, but if you want to acquire it without stealing, the only way to do it is in this DLC. Before you get to the police station, there will be a building with toxic gas on the top, and then here you can see a Patriot cookbook along with the acoustic guitar. So definitely make sure to grab that during your playthrough so you don't have to steal it, and there's only 3 of them within all of Fallout New Vegas. Now, the next character we have is Dog and God. Now, this is the same character, but this character has split personalities. God is more intelligent and more conniving, whereas Dog is more obedient, especially towards Father Elijah, and is just more of a brute who does not have as much intellect. Now, according to Chris Avellone, this character was based on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and particularly the depiction of Mr. Hyde in the comic book, The Lead of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and it's very easy to see the resemblance of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde within this character. Now, the last of the companion characters is Christine Royce, and as you can see, this interaction for me got glitched as I got phased into Dean Domino, so kind of funny. But as we mentioned earlier, Christine actually had her vocal cords removed, and this was Dean Domino's doing, because he knew he would need Vera Keyes' voice in order to open the vault. And we'll talk more about Vera later in this video. But Christine was a Brotherhood of Steel scribe who was investigating the Sierra Madre before everything went bad and she was kidnapped. Now, there was some cut content. In one ending, it was going to be possible for Christine to corner and kill Father Elijah herself, but this was cut. Also, her character was originally going to appear within the Van Buren project, but obviously that project, the original Fallout 3, never came to fruition. So, some interesting facts about this character, and of course she is a mute or silent throughout much of the first half of Dead Money. Now, I also wanted to talk about the Ghost People, the main enemy found within the Dead Money DLC. Now, these are mutated humans that are extremely old, and they're very difficult to kill. But how did they come to exist? So actually, during the construction of the villa, Frederick Sinclair, the man who we mentioned earlier and designed the Sierra Madre Casino, and executives of the Big MT signed an agreement to conduct research on construction workers within the villa. They used a chemical called Z43, and this chemical turned to be extremely toxic, and then it mutated many of these workers, and is still found within the villa. And of course, we still don't know a lot about the Ghost People, but Dean Domino speculates that they are probably similar to feral ghouls, but perhaps a little bit more intelligent because they can use weapons, unlike feral ghouls. And moving on to some Dr. Bosch glitches, moving to Salida del Sol South, there is a map exit glitch that we can use to explore the outside area a little bit. Now, this glitch is kind of pointless. It doesn't really benefit us in any way, but we can just use it for exploring. So next to the Salina del Sol house, which is the entrance to the northern part, we can take this wooden crate and simply place it on the railing here. And then by jumping up on the wooden crate like so, we can actually reach this next part of the roof. Then just following this path, we can easily get outside of the map. But like I said, unfortunately, there's nothing really on the outside part of the map. But of course, it's always fun to explore and see what we can do. Kind of that Dr. Bosch type feeling. Now, unfortunately, we cannot interact with anything on this part of the map. And somehow, Dog got to me, but I have no idea how he got outside the map too. Now, we can see like ghost people and stuff wandering around, but we cannot touch them. Now, interestingly enough, we can grab the cloud residue, but we cannot take anything else. So I'm not sure why that is accessible. But like I said, you cannot interact with the world inside the map. So this glitch is pretty pointless, but I thought it was pretty cool nonetheless. And we can see a different perspective of the map and just see something that not many people get to see. And one last thing I wanted to point out is the location of the snow globe. Now, the Sierra Madre snow globe is very easy to miss. So in Salida del Sol North, you'll want to follow this path in order to find this hole in the wall. And then there you can see the snow globe on the floor. But normally it'll appear on top of this box. But anyways, you want to make sure you grab it, because not only do you get 2,000 Sierra Madre chips, which is very useful for your DLC playthrough, but it's cool to add to our collection, and once you leave Dead Money, there's no going back. Now, moving on to the inside of the Sierra Madre Casino, it's a really good idea to go gambling here, because you can exchange the chips, the Sierra Madre chips, for pre-war money. So you can get around 100,000 caps by gambling within the Sierra Madre. So make sure you have a good luck skill and get yourself some caps. Now, of course, the Sierra Madre Casino was built by Frederick Sinclair, and it featured hologram security, which is very annoying if you've ever played this DLC. Now, when the bombs fell, the hologram security killed all of the patrons within the casino. And outside of the casino, the people became the ghost people. So a very grim ending for anyone visiting the Sierra Madre at the time of the Great War. And upon rediscovering Christine, you will find that she is in Vera's room. And on Vera's body, we can take her dress, and that's really about it. But her dress can be worn by the courier, and if you're a male, it'll change to like a tuxedo type outfit, which is pretty cool. Now, Vera Keyes was a young starlet during the pre-war era who made a name for herself in Hollywood due to her beauty and acting ability. However, she appeared in several really bad romances, but drew large crowds because of her appearance. Now, Frederick Sinclair built the Sierra Madre for Vera Keyes, and he was very much obsessed with her. And he ended up pretty much holding her hostage or prisoner within the casino. And the vault within the Sierra Madre was designed to keep Vera Keyes locked inside of it. And the last thing I wanted to mention is during the ending sequence, there are 37 gold bars which are extremely valuable. However, most players do not take all of them because they weigh too much. But you can actually skip the Father Elijah fight and take the gold bars with you by sneaking past him. As you can see me, by hiding behind that generator, I was able to escape. Basically, as Father Elijah approaches the vault, you want to make a run for it. And even though you're way down by the gold, you will easily make it before he can shut down the door, locking you within the vault. And then you just simply use the elevator and you're free to leave the casino. Now, I do highly recommend having the long haul perk if you use this glitch. That way you can fast travel as soon as you get back to New Vegas. and trade in your gold for caps or ammunition, if that's what you want, of course. In total, the gold is worth more than 300,000 caps, so of course it's within the player's benefit to try to take all of the gold and sneak around Father Elijah.
Welcome.
Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video about the Dead Money DLC in the Sierra Madre Casino, and I hope you learned something interesting about this DLC. Now real quick, I wanted to give my quick opinion about this DLC, which is very controversial among Fallout fans. Now I do think this DLC has some annoying elements, specifically the hologram security. But I do want to say, I actually think this DLC is not that bad. I think it's a lot of fun because it forces the player into a mode of survival. It feels like you're playing in a post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. Everything's out trying to kill you, and it's just you and whatever loot you can scavenge. When I play through this DLC, it actually reminds me of my playthrough through The Last of Us. Kind of a similar vibe in my opinion, as far as gameplay and the survival and trying to loot everything you can find. So I actually think this DLC is pretty good. I enjoy the lore and the story behind it. But what do you guys think of Dead Money? I'm always curious to know what all of you guys think. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for the next episode of the Unexplored Mojave, please post them in the comments section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Mojave Outpost. This was recommended to me by Wesley Gassett, who has given me tons of recommendations, and I am working towards fulfilling all of those recommendations. So the Mojave Outpost is a very famous site within Fallout New Vegas, so we'll try and take a look at some of the lesser seen parts of the outpost. Now, of course, as you can see here, there is the Unification Monument. And the reason for this monument is originally the Desert Rangers of Nevada and the New California Republic Rangers were actually separate groups, but they unified in around 2271. And then by, of course, 2281, the events of Fallout New Vegas take place. So the Desert Rangers and the NCR Rangers have only been unified for about a decade. So before that, the Desert Rangers were one of the main forces within the Mojave Wasteland. And another interesting fact is in the original Fallout game called Wasteland, which is a 1988 video game, the protagonists were called Desert Rangers. So of course the Desert Rangers are a callback to the video game Wasteland, and Fallout is the spiritual successor to Wasteland. So of course the Mojave Outpost is located in the southwesternmost part of the map. I'm not going to show it on the mini-map because it's really hard to miss, especially if you just follow the normal New Vegas playthrough route. Now as you approach it, you will find this truck filled with a bunch of Brahmin bones, or maybe they were cow or cattle bones, and maybe they died during the Great War. Hard to say, but of course in Fallout we can find Brahmin, and there's some over in this cage along with some sleeping bags. And then on the other side of this cage we can find some plants and empty whiskey bottles, but not a whole lot in here. Now the empty whiskey bottles made me think of cow tipping, so I wonder if some NCR soldiers got bored, got drunk, and maybe did something very mean to those Brahmin. Then the main part of the Mojave Outpost is that we can see it is a former inspection area for the United States government. And of course, littered around here are some police cars along with some other abandoned vehicles, signifying that this place was somewhat busy at the time of the Great War. And if we come over to the southeastern part, we can find a gate that I didn't really know about, which leads us to the backyard area, where we can find some plants, buffalo gourds, and some wagons. But not a whole lot back here, but there are some empty boxes and sunset sarsaparilla crates that do have sunset sarsaparilla. Then we can also find some picnic tables that have empty Nuka-Cola bottles and Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles on them, along with a deck of cards. So I'd like to imagine NCR troops come out here during their time off in order to play cards. Heading into the barracks, we can find Cass, one of the recruitable companions within Fallout New Vegas, along with Lacey, who will sell us food and booze. So obviously this is the location where travelers or caravanners and NCR troops stop for a quick drink and a bite to eat. And it is also worth noting that today the Mojave Outpost serves as a major outpost, administrative outpost for the NCR, as a place for caravanners to go through inspection and stop by before they enter the Mojave Wasteland or head towards the New California Republic, in which case they have to go through the Long 15, which will be a future video. On top of the barracks, we can find Ranger Ghost, and get some pretty good views of the southern part of the Mojave Wasteland, including Primm and Nipton. Inside the Mojave Outpost headquarters, we can find Major Knight, who is a very useful character because he has 100 repair. So if you ever need to fix up your items, he's always a good guy to come to. The rest of this building, though, is just desk and office area that obviously is used by the NCR. As I said earlier, the NCR uses this as an administrative area, and it also helps them to enforce their protection over the southern Mojave. Although, of course, they've been kind of failing in that department recently with the Legion attack at Nipton. And, of course, the escaped convict situation in Primm and the NCR Correctional Facility, the Powder Gangers. Alright, that's pretty much sums up the Mojave Outpost. Now, one thing I wanted to quickly talk about is the function of the outpost before the Great War. What was it used for? Because it's kind of weird that this outpost exists, at least to me. It sits close to the border between California and Nevada. However, in the Fallout universe, the 50 states of America were dissolved, and America was reorganized into 13 commonwealths. And these commonwealths were spread across the United States and the newly annexed Canada. That's right, in the Fallout universe, the United States annexed Canada. So I was trying to figure out what purpose the Mojave Outpost would have served before the Great War, and I'm just not very sure. It could have been related to the Long 15, which is a long stretch of road that is very desolate without a lot of supplies on it, but that doesn't seem so likely to me. So, what do you guys think it was used for? And it's also worth noting that the Mojave Outpost is in the same geographical area as the real-world Mountain Pass, California, which is near the border of Nevada and California. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Boulder Beach Campground. This location is located just north of Boulder City. I just happened to find this place while I was kind of exploring near Boulder City, and this is a place I don't have any memory of, and I just thought it was kind of a cool little area. Now, there's not a whole lot here, but that's the point of the Unexplored Mojave, finding places that you can easily miss in a playthrough of Fallout New Vegas, so let's check it out. So, as I just mentioned, this location is near Boulder City. The name is Boulder Beach Campground. It's located just north of Boulder City, right on the shores of Lake Mead. So upon approaching the location, you will find several picnic tables and a floating tin can. So we probably have some ghost activity here. And then we have some barrels, trash cans, or maybe a fire pit. Not sure what. But obviously this place seems to have not been touched since the time of the Great War. It's a relic that's frozen in time, and over here we can see a destroyed car and a camper, along with a grill. So people were probably camping out, enjoying their lives when the world went to shit. Then on the next lower part of the campground, we can again just find more picnic tables, various bottles, various tin cans. And over here we can find some parked cars where people probably parked before pitching their tent. And at the very lowest area, we can find some docks along with some sunken boats. So obviously people would use this area to set sail or just go out on Lake Mead. Whether it was by sail or motor, I mean, I don't know. But obviously in a big state of disrepair. So kind of a somber reminder of the effects of the Great War. And as so many other areas in New Vegas, this is kind of redundant at this point, but yes, Boulder Beach Campground is based on the real-life Boulder Beach Campground, which is, of course, a real campground in real life with various hiking areas and other camping facilities. So, really good job to Obsidian for paying attention to the real world. So that is the Boulder Beach Campground. I hope you guys enjoyed this short video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And, as always, until next time. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be looking at Ranger Station Alpha. This is a location right next to the Boulder Beach Campground, which is the location we explored in the previous edition of the Unexplored Mojave. Now Ranger Station Alpha is kind of difficult to get to because it's nestled in the mountains just north of Boulder City and right on the shoreline of Lake Mead. It's a very beautiful location to get some really great views of Lake Mead. So let's see what this location has to offer. So as I said, this location is just north of Boulder City and just west of the Boulder Beach Campground. So this is a pretty central location within the Mojave Wasteland. Now here we can find Ranger Lineholm, I hope I'm saying that right, who has some very interesting dialogue. So first she will actually talk about the bomber within Lake Mead.
Have you ever heard the story of the bomber that crashed into the lake before the war? Supposedly it's mostly intact, even after all that time.
So obviously the bomber that she is talking about is the same bomber that you, the courier, helps to resurface with the boomers. Now she also has some interesting dialogue about what Ranger Station Alpha was used for in the past.
Ranger Station Alpha used to be the frontline outpost for NCR. When we moved onto the dam, this station has fallen into more a support role.
So as we can see, Ranger Station Alpha used to be the forwardmost position for the NCR, but that was probably a long time ago before the first Battle of Hoover Dam, when the NCR decided to occupy Hoover Dam. Throughout the rest of the base, we can find bedrolls and ammunition and food and water. However, we cannot take any of it because it's considered stealing, but we can sleep in the bedrolls. Inside this tent, we have a bench with a checkerboard, some chips, and playing cards. So I'd like to imagine the NCR troops at nighttime like to drink and like to gamble and play games against each other. Over here, we can find an outhouse that is obviously overflowing. And there's also a really cool poster. I don't know why, but I think this poster is really cool. Obviously NCR propaganda about not eating irradiated food. I just think it's a really cool graphic. But that pretty much sums up Ranger Station Alpha. Now I was reading through some of the notes on this location, and apparently sometimes lake lurks will attack the NCR here, which I think is really cool. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Boulder City in Fallout New Vegas. Now, this was recommended to me by Wesley Gossett, who said, can you look at Builder City? But I'm pretty sure he meant Boulder City. So, as with many locations in New Vegas, Boulder City is a real location in real life. So we can definitely go visit it if you want. It's a very famous city because of its proximity to Hoover Dam. And of course, in Fallout New Vegas, the proximity to Hoover Dam plays an important role for the town and explains why the town is in such poor state. So as you can see here on the map, here is Boulder City. It's kind of in the center of the map. It's directly east of Vault 11 and near the 188 trading post. Now coming down the main street, there's a lot of buildings that have fallen into disrepair and lay in ruins. So there's not a whole lot on this street as far as these buildings, but at the end of this street we can find the NCR Memorial for the first battle of Hoover Dam. And there's a very funny and evil interaction with a NCR soldier here named Private Kowalski, but it'll give you negative karma. And the memorial reads, "On this spot in the year 2277, Rangers and soldiers of the New California Republic turned back the forces of Caesar's Legion during the Battle of Hoover Dam. Over 100 men and women gave their lives on Nevada soil to defend local civilians and the principles of the Republic. May this humble stone be an enduring memorial to their valor and sacrifice." And then over here on this building we have the Bighorn Saloon, and this saloon is actually operating, and you're going to find a lot of city workers inside of it, and the bartender has some very interesting dialogue.
"A customer. Not many people come into Boulder City these days. Most of the town is rubble, destroyed during the Battle of Hoover Dam. And the only other thing around here is the concrete mixing yard. The NCR has been constructing bunkers up and down the river. From what I've heard, it's a little late for that. Travelers over at the 188, just up the road, said that the Legion has overrun a couple of towns to the south. Most of the limestone comes from Quarry Junction out west. The supply had stopped for a while because of a deathclaw problem. I heard some badass wastelander killed the deathclaws, and deliveries of limestone have been coming in again. I don't think they've gotten the trains up and running yet, but most of the concrete plant workers have come back to town now. Good for business."
So from this interaction, we can learn that the NCR actually had some of the trains up and running, which is something I never realized. But they were obviously using the trains to bring in limestone from Quarry Junction near Sloan. And of course, the badass wanderer that he mentions is the courier, once you've cleared Quarry Junction. So it's pretty cool that the player's actions have an impact on the rest of the game. You kill all the Deathclaws at Quarry Junction, and the limestone shipments to Boulder City start to go again. But obviously the trains aren't working now. Over here in this building, you will find a lot of skeletons inside, and on the top we're going to find a holodisc. I've actually mentioned this holodisc before in my Whittaker Farmstead video, but the holodisc that's at Whittaker Farmstead is a mistake. This is where it's supposed to be. So here we can see the Ranger holodisc next to a service rifle, and it reads, "We're cut off from the rest of the platoon, and there are legionaries all over the place. There's no chance we can get out of here before they blow the town, so we're going to hold out against them as long as we can. If anyone gets this, I'd like to make sure that Private Jeffrey Hugh and Corporal Marcus Christensen are commended for their valor and sacrifice. Both have upheld the ideals and honor of the New California Republic with distinction. Ranger Teresa Lutz, out." So obviously some pretty cool environmental storytelling here. We can see all of the skeletons and the weapon and the ranger hat. So we're left to assume this is where those rangers made their last stand. So kind of a grim area. Boulder City was actually pretty much destroyed during the first battle of Hoover Dam. The Legion tried to invade, but the NCR destroyed the city, or they blew it up, leaving most of it in ruins. And if we come over to this part of the town, we can really see those ruins, right? So many destroyed buildings, and there's just not a whole lot we can do here. Now, of course, this area is very important for the main quest with the Great Khan standoff with the NCR, where we have to either help the NCR or the Great Khans or resolve the situation peacefully. Over here, we have an very easy locked door. And something I never realized, but I'm pretty sure the game was designed to allow the player to sneak around without being seen by the Great Khans. Usually the Great Khans are not hostile with me, so I always just walk straight to them. but it does appear they wanted to allow the player the option to sneak up behind them. Then inside, we can take some things, but other things are considered stealing. Basically, anything that would have belonged to the Great Khans is considered stealing. Anything that's just left over, like from the general store, is okay to take. We also have a bed in here with a pillow, which is kind of interesting. There's not too many pillows in Fallout New Vegas. Then on this side of the street, we have some buildings which we can enter, but there's not a whole lot in here besides some beds and like some empty bathrooms. But inside these toilets and the other room, we can actually find chems, which is kind of interesting. But again, as you can see here, I'm pretty sure it was intended for the player to be able to sneak around to the Great Khans, or maybe sneak around back to the NCR. And then up in this room, we actually have a copy of True Police Stories, but besides that, not a whole lot up here. And there's also some spiked knuckles, which you could use, I guess, if you were new to the game. But for me, not such a great weapon. In the next house, again, more beds, just like before. And in this bathroom, though, we have a bunch of ammunition and some buff out in the bathtub, along with a submachine gun, but I don't really want that right now. And again, it looks like we could sneak back behind all of this. Upstairs, there's nothing but ruins. So we can clearly see the devastation of the war between the NCR and Caesar's Legion here in Boulder City. It's kind of sad, but through the actions of the player, we can start to bring Boulder City back to life, which I think is really cool. Boulder City has always been very important for Hoover Dam. During Hoover Dam's construction, the workers lived in Boulder City. And now, in Fallout New Vegas, Boulder City is very important for the NCR and for making concrete for the NCR's defenses. So it still remains a vital area in the post-apocalyptic nuclear wasteland. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave, the Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be checking out the Boulder City train station. This was recommended to me by Ian Boykin, who has been a viewer of this series since like episode 1, so thank you so much for your support, Ian. Now this location is just north of Boulder City, which we covered in the previous video, and you can find that video at the end of this video in the credits. Now, the train station is an unmarked location within Fallout New Vegas, and it's very close to the city, but I thought because of some of the information about it, it deserved its own video, because I do think this is an underrated area. So here in this scenic shot, you can see the Boulder City sign above the railroad tracks, and actually, this sign has two connections to real life. The first is the sign reads elevation 2,500, which is referring to 2,500 feet, and the real world sign actually reads elevation 2,475, so pretty high up. Also on the sign is the motto, Home of the Eagles, which is the motto of the real life Boulder City High School. So two pretty cool connections to the real life Boulder City. And then really fast, here you can see the location of the railroad is just north of Boulder City. As I approached the train station, there was actually a traveling merchant here, which I thought was kind of interesting. But it actually does make sense because there are workers at the train station. This train station has been turned into a cement mixing plant for the NCR. So it's actually pretty significant for the New California Republic. Now inside the railroad station, the actual building, we can find some vending machines and a small scorpion that is pretty easy to kill, along with a hard lock safe, or we can open it with an average locked terminal. However, quite unfortunately, there is really not much inside this safe. I found 3 bottle caps and some Radaway and some other chems, but not really worth the effort or time, but it does give you some XP, so I took it. Over here, underneath these tanks, you have an area where we can see that workers might go on their break. There are some cigarette butts, some empty bottles, and a toolbox, but there's nothing here to really loot. And if we climb up this platform, we can find a duffel bag with some NCR money, a lot of bottle caps, and some food and chems. far better than the locked safe inside the railroad station. Following the train tracks, we will find a road and a canyon that will lead us to the Boulder Beach Campground, which I covered in another previous video. So this is a pretty cool location with some okay loot, and is definitely worth a visit if you are a new player to Fallout New Vegas. Now, as we talked about in the previous video, the NCR actually got the railroad working again, so they were operating some of the trains between Quarry Junction and Boulder City, according to the bartender at the Bighorn Saloon in Boulder City. However, due to the death clause in Quarry Junction, the trains stopped. And, as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comment section below. And until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at Hopeville, which is the first town that you encounter in the Lonesome Road DLC. Now I'm very excited for this video because Lonesome Road is my favorite DLC in Fallout New Vegas. I really love Ulysses as a villain, and I just love the aesthetic and the weapons and armor that Lonesome Road added to New Vegas. Also, the atmosphere during Lonesome Road is probably my favorite in any Fallout game, so really top notch. Now, throughout the Unexplored Mojave series, I've tried to find out the real locations of locations that we can find in the Mojave. However, Lonesome Road was a little bit more difficult because it's not necessarily based on any real locations. Many players speculate that it's just kind of west of Good Springs, but upon some further research I started to doubt that theory, and I found a Reddit post from about 10 years ago that I think explains the situation the best. So according to the game, the Marked Men, which is the main villain that we have to fight in Lonesome Road, cut off supplies along State Route 88 and State Route 127. Now, 127 is close to New Vegas, which would support the idea that it's near Good Springs. However, State Route 88 is near California, specifically close to Sacramento, making it pretty far away from New Vegas. So if we meet in the middle, that would place the divide at about Death Valley National Park, which I think just adds a really cool element to this DLC. So for this video, that's the theory I'm going to run with, that the divide takes place within Death Valley, and I think that would be a pretty cool idea. So as you enter Hopeville, you're going to come across this gas station, and this gas station is actually pretty incredible. In fact, this is one of the best locations in all of Fallout, and I know what you might be saying. Otter, this is just a plain gas station. There's a hard-locked safe in it, but there's nothing to see here. Well, you would be wrong. You see, this is every Fallout player's wet dream. Over 100 episodes, hundreds of hours of exploring the waste, pain, suffering, countless rads, hundreds of Kims, alcoholism, and it has all led me to this very moment in time. Here we can find the rarest item in all of Fallout New Vegas. The legendary, the magnificent, the glorious, the radioactive Nuka-Cola Quantum. Everything in Fallout has led me to this very moment, finding the only bottle of Nuka-Cola Quantum in Fallout New Vegas. For whatever reason, the devs of Fallout New Vegas didn't put Nuka-Cola Quantum in the game, but we can find it in this chest. There's a 10% chance that it'll spawn in that crate. If it doesn't spawn for you, you will want to reload your save from exiting the bunker, so you'll have to go through the Ulysses conversation every single time, and you will just have to keep reloading if you want to acquire it. Moving on to the Hopeville bunkers, only one of which is accessible. We have to get through a very hard-locked door or a hard-locked terminal. I decided to go ahead and hack the terminal since I don't usually do that, and I actually quite enjoy hacking in Fallout. Now, in here we can find all sorts of amazing loot, so definitely make a stop by here if you get the chance. Now, of course, we can find things like bobby pins and ammunition, which is obviously very good, but we can also find riot gear and riot gear helmet. And the reason I like this armor a lot is it looks like the Ranger armor. However, it does not have the NCR affiliation. So when you wear it, you're still your character and people don't think you're NCR, which is really cool. Also, in a very hard locked locker, we have a riot gear and a riot shotgun that are almost in perfect condition, but it's in a very hard locked locker. So you're going to need a 100 lockpick in order to access it. And then moving up the side here to the west, we can find the Hopeville Missile Base headquarters. We can see this overturned truck along with some more marked men. And these marked men can actually be pretty well armed. This guy had a rocket launcher, and sometimes they can even carry an anti-material rifle. So I found this DLC to be very challenging, which is kind of how I remembered it, but it's not as frustrating, I think, as the Dead Money DLC, which we did a previous video on. And on the top of the headquarters, we can find some ammunition boxes, some stealth boys, and then over here on this edge, we can find some whiskey bottles. So I would like to imagine that maybe workers came up here to drink long ago, before obviously the Great War happened. Now, one thing I really like about this DLC is in even like metal boxes and stuff, you can find pretty decent loot. As you can see in there, I found a stim pack. So I found that looting everything in the Lonesome Road DLC is worthwhile. In Dead Money, it's more out of necessity, but in this DLC, it's more out of that you could find something good or something helpful in almost any box. So you want to look through everything, and I really like that aspect of Lonesome Road. Heading into the headquarter building, we will find some more marked men, one of which is armed with an anti-material rifle, this one here. So definitely, if you're doing this DLC, make sure you come prepared, because these guys can mess you up if they want. And I had some trouble killing this guy, but eventually we blew his leg off. And as you can see here, there's that anti-material rifle. Now, inside of the headquarters, there's not a whole lot, but we can find some chems and some healing items. And, of course, the marked men might have good weapons and ammunition on them, but not a whole lot in here. But you can kind of see that people have been mutilated inside of here. Now, there is this medical bot that can help heal your limbs and restore your health, the auto dock, which is really helpful. And there's also a commissary inside to buy ammunition and mods for your weapons that you acquire during your playthrough. So pretty helpful. And there's a destroyed iBot, which will have an upgrade for Eddie. And then in this back room, we can find a locked safe along with some chems and some pre-war money. Now, during this DLC, you can find a lot of pre-war money, which is really nice because it is worth a lot of money. As you can see there, pre-war money, along with some stim packs and a copy of Today's Physician. So, not bad. Now, in this other room, before you get to the safe room, I found this really cool light bulb. Somebody kind of jerry-rigged this light bulb, and I just thought it was a really cool aesthetic for Fallout. So while we have this scenic shot of Eddie and a light bulb, let's go over some of the lore of Hopeville. So during the pre-war, Hopeville was a small town that ended up housing nuclear missiles because the United States thought it would be a good place for a base. However, the Commonwealth Defense Administration did not realize that the ground was unstable. It was geographically unstable and there were minor earthquakes. And at some point before the Great War, the U.S. Army allowed Big MT to conduct research on the city, specifically involving weather control. And leading up to the events of Fallout New Vegas, Hopeville was actually a thriving community that served as a trade post between the New California Republic and New Vegas. But that all changed when a certain courier delivered a package to the Divide. Moving on to the actual town of Hopeville, away from the military base, we can find like a main street area with several buildings and houses. However, all of this lies in ruins and kind of just pure chaos because of the massive earthquakes that occurred when the nuclear bombs were detonated underneath the city. And we'll talk more about why later in the video. At this marked man camp, we can find some really kind of like disgusting scenes of what appears to be human organs kind of sprung out around the area. Obviously, the marked men are up to some pretty bad stuff, and obviously they are a bit crazy, and that's putting it lightly. In this building over here, we can actually find the detonator to detonate some of the warheads that will help us clear a path throughout much of the divide. Inside this building, though, we can find some dead marksmen that I killed, another one with an anti-material rifle, along with red glare, which is a rocket launcher that is very useful, and as I mentioned, the laser detonator, which we can use to detonate some warheads that will help us clear the way. As always, it'll be worth your time to loot through stuff, as you can find weapons, grenades, ammunition, and of course, chems and medical supplies. Again, really cool about this DLC. Now, after you pick up the laser detonator, you will get ambushed by a lot of marked men, so you'll be ready for that fight. I actually found it pretty difficult, and I really enjoy the difficulty, though, with this DLC. Like I said before, it's not very much frustrating. It feels like a fair fight, unlike Dead Money, which at times feels kind of unfair. In the ground floor of this building, we can find a lot of ammunition, and then there's an Eddie poster over on this building. Of course, if you find all 20 Eddie posters, you'll get some XP. Then we can blow up this warhead, which will lead us to the next section of Hopeville. However, before we move on to the next section, I actually skipped over a part, so we want to head back to that area, which is very easily missed. So this is the Hopeville Missile Base loading station, and we can find some trucks here, and I assume they just use this area to load off supplies and potentially nuclear missiles. This is just to the east of the Nuka-Cola Quantum gas station. And again, we can find a lot of good supplies and food. There's lots of MREs that we can find, which would be a probably decent food, especially if you're playing on hardcore difficulty. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot over here, but there are some plasma mines that are active, so be careful about that. And we can find a skeleton with a Bowie knife next to it, so I wonder if somebody died trying to fight off marked men or something like that. Not sure, but some pretty cool, like, world building. And then heading towards the next section, we can find the Hopeville Men's Barracks, which of course would have been an army barracks for the men soldiers. And there will be several marked men inside, so you're going to want to make sure to kill them. And this fight can be a little bit difficult, but, you know, me and Eddie handled it pretty alright. Again, we can take some ammo and bottle caps from the guys, and then we can loot the rest of this building and get some ammunition. And there's also some weapons like the Blade of the West, which I thought was kind of a cool weapon that the marked men sometimes carry on them. And then over here opposite of me, we have a hard-locked locker, and inside we can actually get some US Army combat armor, which is pretty decent, and it's worth a lot of caps, so a really good find. Again, if you go through this DLC, I highly recommend having 100 lockpick. Otherwise, you're going to miss out on some pretty good loot. And then heading to the Marked Men Guard Outpost, this is the next area of Hopeville. We can find an overturned truck, and of course, more marked men. Now, there's not much in the overturned truck, but we can find some more army supply crates. Now, over in these buildings, this is pretty optional stuff, like you could easily skip it, but we can find some pretty dark stuff in here. So, of course, as always, more ammunition, more chems and medical supplies, all of that kind of good stuff. And there is an average locked metal box, but for me, it didn't have much loot that was worth a lot. And upstairs, we can just find more ammunition and some more military supply crates. Again, lots of looting to do in this DLC, so make sure you have a lot of time when you play through it, try to relax, and take your time. Now, actually, if we go around back, we can find a basement, like 2 cellar doors, and down here we have some pretty dark stuff going on. You're going to notice that these tables are filled with human skeletons and what appears to be human organs, so some really messed up stuff going on down here. Now, for whatever reason, when we came down here, Eddie entered combat mode, but there was no enemies down here, so I'm not sure why he went berserk or why he was hostile. And there's also a copy of Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor over amongst the organs. And then over by the Eddie poster, we can find 2 skeletons hanging from the feet, and it appears that their body parts were collected in wooden crates. Now, I went over to check the refrigerators to see what was inside of them, but there was just normal food, which I wonder if there should be like other stuff inside of them though, because of the messed up things happening in that basement. Now eventually you'll come across this marked men supply outpost, but there's really not a whole lot over here. As you can see, there's a warhead, but upon detonating the warhead, I couldn't really find any loot that was worthwhile. Like, detonating the nuclear warhead didn't really have any amazing benefits, besides, of course, getting you the challenge of detonating all of the warheads within the divide. Inside this truck, like I said, not a whole lot, but there's some bobby pins, and bobby pins are really useful in this DLC for lockpicking if you didn't bring a lot with you. But definitely before doing this DLC, I'd highly recommend stocking up on lockpicks. Now in the back of this trailer, I just found another kind of creepy scene. We have a mattress, some blood splatter, a tipped over chair, and a mop box or mop crate, which, you know, may have been used for some kind of blood. Kind of disturbing, kind of fits with the theme of the divide. And eventually you'll have to detonate this warhead that's in the middle of the road in order to progress the quest further. Now, the fight that ensues is pretty challenging, but using a red glare and an anti-material rifle, and me and Eddie were able to clear it somewhat easily. However, Blister here had a lot of HP, and it took a lot of rockets to bring him down. Again, I found this DLC to be really fun and really challenging, which is part of the reason why it's my favorite DLC, combined with the lore and story. Now, eventually you'll find this fire truck, which I thought was pretty cool. I don't know of any other fire trucks within Fallout New Vegas. And we can climb up on top of it in order to find some other parts of this building. You can find these like stone huts made out of like bricks or something, littered around this DLC, which kind of shows the primitive nature of the marked men. And of course, we can find some more ammunition. Then we can detonate this nuclear warhead, and it'll take us to the next area of the divide. And that final explosion is pretty cool. Now this will lead us to the collapsed overpass tunnel, which we will cover in a future video. But for now, continuing about some of the Hopeville lore. So as I mentioned, Hopeville had a lot of nuclear missiles underneath it, and it was important for the NCR in New Vegas. Now the courier, the main character, was one of the essential people helping keep Hopeville running. He ran a lot of missions for the NCR. Eventually, the NCR hired the courier to deliver a package, Eddie, to Hopeville. Unbeknownst to the NCR and to the courier, Eddie had the activation codes for the nuclear missiles in the divide, and when the courier showed up, the nuclear missiles detonated, and it caused massive earthquakes and created the chaos that we see now. And from what we can gather, the courier repressed these memories because of how traumatizing they were, and Ulysses is the sole survivor of the detonation. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. What do you guys think of Lonesome Road? Let me know in the comments, and if you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be checking out the collapsed overpass tunnel entrance. Now this is the area immediately after the player clears Hopeville, and this area is pretty short, but it introduces a new enemy within Fallout called the Tunnelers. And there's some other various interesting stuff in here. Now, this tunnel collapsed when the nuclear weapons detonated underneath Hopeville. And as we mentioned in the last video, those weapons detonated because the courier delivered a package, Eddie, to Hopeville that contained the activation codes and detonated all the nukes unknowingly. So upon entering the tunnel, you will have a conversation with Eddie, and if you are quick, you will actually encounter a Deathclaw that only has 35 HP. And the point of this Deathclaw is actually to be killed by tunnelers, but if the player is fast enough, they can just shoot the Deathclaw and it'll die very quick. But besides that, in this overturned truck, we have some food, but not much loot inside of it. And then over here on this mound, we can find a crate with a lot of rockets in it, which is pretty good because we can use those rockets to fight various enemies. Then over here we can find an H&H Tools gun, which is a fairly decent weapon that we can use. And then on the dead NCR soldier, we can find the Bravo team orders, which read, at 0600 hours, Bravo team will conduct sweep and clear operations in advance of the main force. Early intelligence suggests the tunnels are only sparsely populated by small, subterranean semi-humanoids, which are easily cowed by bright light and loud noises. Bravo team has been issued flashbang grenade for this purpose, and is expected to meet minimal resistance. Now inside this container next to the NCR soldier, we can find a duffel bag being covered by a skeleton, which has some healing supplies and grenades, which are pretty useful. Now I did want to mention the NCR soldiers that we can find here are the only NCR soldiers within the Lonesome Road DLC that are not marked men. And up here we can find some rangers, and we can take their dog tags and armor. And as we advance further into the tunnel, we will encounter tunnelers. And this enemy is a brand new enemy within Fallout New Vegas. I mean, as far as it was introduced in Lonesome Road. And this enemy might make an appearance in later Fallout installments based on what Ulysses tells us. And we will look some more at Ulysses' dialogue later on. In the back of this truck, we can find a lot of ammunition and some stealth boys, which is really useful, especially in this DLC. And as I said, I wanted to take a look at some of the dialogue that Ulysses has about tunnelers.
Death will come from below. In the divide, need to watch the sky and the ground. Mojave will be easy prey for them. They'll start emerging throughout the Mojave in time. Might be years, probably less. They breed fast. Hunt in groups, more than enough to bring down the strongest in the Mojave, once they draw blood. Seen them tear apart Deathclaws. Deathclaw might get some, but the rest will swarm it, tear it apart, like Denver hounds.
And here we can see that Ulysses believes tunnelers will pose a significant threat to the Mojave, and we could possibly see tunnelers in the Fallout TV show as we shift towards the Mojave. Keep in mind, New Vegas takes place in 2281, and the Fallout TV show takes place in 2296. More than enough time for the tunnelers to make their mark on the Mojave. And these guys can be pretty annoying to fight. However, I still don't think they're as bad as a Deathclaw, despite what Ulysses tells us. But they are a pretty cool enemy within Fallout, and I hope they make an appearance again. Their bioluminescent nature and the fact that they live underground and they can pop up anywhere at any time makes them a great enemy for the Fallout universe. Kind of reminds me of Tremors, if you've ever seen that horror movie. Moving on, though, we can find a lot of food and MREs, as is the case with the rest of the Lonesome Road. As you can see in this overturned truck, we have even more MREs. And then as we approach the exit in this back corner, we can find some more supply crates that have healing items in it, which is greatly appreciated as we continue along Lonesome Road, which has a fair share of difficulties. And then as we approach this truck, we can find the exit to the high road, which will be a future video. Now, I did want to quickly point out, over here we can find a teddy bear, and underneath this teddy bear is a copy of Duck and Cover, which is of course very good as it can increase your explosive skill permanently by 3 or by 4 if you have the right perks. Also, I just thought this teddy bear is kind of creepy. Why is it in this tunnel, just over in this random box? So, what do you guys think? Do you think we will see tunnelers within the Fallout TV show? Of course, tunnelers only appear in Lonesome Road, so it makes them a little bit less known. However, I really hope they do make an appearance, as it would show great attention to detail by the show's creators, and it might also help explain the terrible state that we see New Vegas in during the TV show. So, what do you guys think? And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the High Road, which is the area directly after the collapsed overpass. Now, in the pre-war era, the high road was a critical piece of infrastructure for people traveling through what has become known as the Divide. It connects Hopeville and Ashton. And with the destruction in the Divide, the high road remains one of the few passable routes between Hopeville and Ashton. So obviously it's become very important, but it is very dangerous because of that fact. So immediately upon entering the high road, you will be confronted by Ulysses speaking over Eddie. Then we have a billboard about our hope for our country, which is probably a military advertisement. Now, right at the beginning, we can find some lootable bags and stuff. However, there wasn't a whole lot inside of them. Then up here, we have some marked men, along with a flag of the United States. And these marked men are actually led by a named NPC called Beast, and Beast has a unique helmet on him, the marked Beast face helmet. Then over here we have a commissary, which Eddie can unlock for us, good for buying ammunition or selling some of your stuff. And also there's various mods that we can purchase from it, so pretty good. But these are littered across the Lonesome Road. Then we have some warheads we have to detonate to continue our journey. And then I found this nice little truck just sitting on the side of the road, and there was some money inside of it. And then in front of us is the crow's nest in this collapsed building, and to the right of the crow's nest, apparently you can actually see Ulysses watching you from the building that is right of the crow's nest. So kind of interesting, however, I didn't find him at the time I filmed this. Also, I've said this before, but I've always thought these trucks are just really cool. They have a really nice aesthetic, mixing kind of like Western America with the nuclear age. So pretty cool. Over here we have a bus that has been, well, it's been through some rough times, and this suitcase has some pre-war money. So pretty good find because it's worth a lot of caps and it has 0 weight. Then we have some ammunition boxes, and we can take the ammunition, of course. Now, throughout Lonesome Road, you're going to find tons of ammunition and tons of medical supplies because this DLC is pretty challenging. Then up here, we have the Crow's Nest. This is an area that was used by an NCR soldier who got trapped up here and ultimately died. Also, we can find one of Ulysses' logs up here, which will give us some information on Ulysses and his views on different parts of the Mojave. And there's also a locked medical box up here with some decent medical supplies. Down here, there's a trailer, and you have to be really careful in this trailer because upon entering it, it will start an ambush event where you are attacked by a death claw. And I was not ready for this, and I was caught off a little bit off guard. And as you can see here, there's the death claw, and he would end up killing me the first time. I actually found this event with these death claws to be pretty challenging, even more so than maybe Deadwind Cavern, because always before when I fought death claws, I could choose my distance of the encounter, right? But here, it's an ambush. You cannot select how far away you are. So as you can see here, I was trying to run away from him, and then I paused because I was panicking, and I used a stim pack, and I was able to kill the Deathclaw. But this is a really cool moment within the DLC for me, but obviously a very difficult moment as well. And as is common in Lonesome Road, we have to continue detonating these nuclear warheads, and there are even more Deathclaws. Now, I could not find any information on this, however, so this is my speculation, but I imagine the ground below us is inhabited by tunnelers, and apparently tunnelers can hunt and kill Deathclaws, so I would suspect the Deathclaws were forced up here to the high road by the tunnelers, because the area below us has become uninhabitable for Deathclaws, which is pretty scary that there is a monster within the Mojave Wasteland that scares Deathclaws even. And in the back of this truck, we have a bed along with some ammunition boxes, so pretty good find and a good place to rest up after fighting so many damn Deathclaws. Also, we have a survivor's footlocker, which has a lot of ammunition and some weapons and armor in it, so again, a pretty good find. Continuing down the road, we have more death claws, but it got significantly easier because, as I said before, I can choose the distance of the encounter, and I can use my anti-material rifle to kill them. Now, this is the end of the high road, actually, and we're going to be moving on to the Junction 7 rest stop. But it's still kind of part of the same area, so we will talk about it in this video. Now, at the end of the high road, we can find a collapsed tunnel. However, it is not accessible to the player, and there's a truck kind of sticking out of it. And if we go inside the truck, we can find some military crates with some first aid supplies. So, pretty good. And then if we come over here, we can find a little encampment, and we can find another Ulysses log, along with some supplies and junk, but really not a whole lot here. But I think the Ulysses logs are pretty interesting. Then moving on, we can find a collapsed building along with just an area that's been obviously devastated. And we can find a really cool scene here. So we have a special enemy called Bonesaw. But even more interesting here is we have a dead Deathclaw surrounded by several dead marked men. So obviously there was a pretty fierce battle here between the marked men and the Deathclaw. And Bonesaw and one more marked man who was a sniper were the lone survivors of the encounter. So some really cool world building from Obsidian. And then inside one of these stone huts, we can find a Roughin' It bedroll kit. And it weighs a lot at 15 pounds. However, this can be used to sleep anywhere as long as we are outside. So it might be useful, and it is a somewhat rare item within Fallout New Vegas. There's only a handful of them within the Lonesome Road DLC, so definitely something you want to pick up. However, I was reading on Reddit there is a glitch with these where you're unable to use it if you pick up more than one. So if you want to grab it, do not pick up multiple of them, just pick up one, and you should be okay. Then we have this warhead back in this corner, and upon detonating it, we can find a skeleton along with some metal boxes that have some ammunition and weapons and medical supplies in them. Also, I just really like these lead-lined medical boxes. They just look really cool and they match the Fallout aesthetic. Now, I really like the high road, like the atmosphere that it creates with the high winds and the kind of, terrible, rusted, nuclear atmosphere. And it also reminds me a lot of Dr. Bosch, and I think a lot of the assets from this part of the game were actually used in Dr. Bosch's horror video series. Now, at the end of the high road, we have the nuclear missile launch, which is one of my favorite scenes within Fallout New Vegas, so I will go ahead and play that without commentary. So, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next location, please post them in the comments section below. And as always, thanks for watching. Hello everyone, the Army of Otters here, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. Today we're going to be looking at the Ashton Missile Silo, along with the Sunset Tower, or at least the inside part of Sunset Tower. Now, this missile silo is of course where the missile is launched by the courier, a single missile which detonates over Hopeville and creates the courier's mile. Of course, we saw that launch and detonation in the previous video. Also worth noting that when the courier returned to Ashton and Hopeville in 2281, all of the missiles were destroyed within this specific silo, except for the one that is ultimately launched. So this silo is now empty and devoid of any nuclear missiles. So upon entering the silo for the first time, you're going to be encountered with, there's tons of explosions, and you're going to be forced to take this elevator further into the silo, and you're going to be ambushed by a lot of tunnelers. So at this part in the game, it really starts to throw a lot of tunnelers at you. However, I actually think they're not that difficult to fight. They can deal a lot of damage, however, they don't have very high health themselves. So me and Eddie were able to clear this part pretty easily. And upon reaching the bottom level, you can find a lot of explosions inside the room which would have housed the actual missile, and just kind of pure destruction from your actions. Of course, you don't have a choice but to launch the missile. Then we have a locked terminal which will open this locked door. And inside of here, there isn't a whole lot, but we can get some medical supplies, at least one stim pack, some chems, and some junk. And there is also some pre-war money. As I mentioned before in previous videos, pre-war money is pretty good because it's worth a lot of money. And then besides tunnelers, you're going to find a lot of sentry bots within this silo, but they're pretty easy to take out at my level. And there's also an auto dock in here to heal all of your wounds and restore your health. And on the top floor of the silo, we will find the easiest hard lock terminal ever. It was just the first word. And inside of this room, we can find an upgrade for Eddie. So that's pretty good and obviously very valuable, especially if you use Eddie back in the Mojave Wasteland. But I thought this was a pretty interesting place to visit, especially as you get down below. You have the collapsed office building. And this is a place that I kind of forgot about in this DLC. It's kind of a short segment of the game, but I still think it's pretty interesting, and I had fun exploring it. Also in that suitcase, there was some pre-war money. And then inside of Sunset Tower, we will find more tunnelers, and this is also a pretty fast segment of the game. Now, I did want to mention, though, on this first, floor, or I guess second floor, really, you're going to find a hard lock safe behind this bookcase, but the most interesting thing is we can actually find a Chinese training manual, which will increase our sneak skill by 3 or by 4 if you have a perk. However, this manual is not easily accessible, and you wouldn't know it was there if it wasn't for, online guides and stuff. Now, you can access it via console command, or you can get it with a special camera angle, which I'll show you. I also want to highlight some of these advertisements. So we had one for a pony, and then we have one for some kind of space odyssey. And then back over in the corner of this hallway where we killed those tunnelers initially, there's this bookshelf facing the wall. If we crouch and go into third person and look at the bottom left of the shelf, we can access the training manual. So pretty darn good. On the next flight of stairs, we have an advertisement for some kind of Halloween shop, like Spirit or something in the Fallout world. Of course, the nuclear bombs fell near Halloween, on October 23rd, just 1 week before Halloween. Then on the next floor, we have some abandoned office rooms, but there isn't a whole lot of loot in it. But we can find some interesting advertisements. We have a propaganda poster from the US military. And then we also have a poster talking about some sort of moon landing inside of the Museum of Technology. And then we have an advertisement for Super Duper Mart, which is of course in Fallout 3, Fallout 4, and the TV show. And then we have a poster for the American military. And then we move on to the rooftop and the divide, but that will be covered in a separate video. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this episode of the Unexplored Mojave. If you have any recommendations for the next video, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Unexplored Mojave. The Army of Otters here, and today we're going to be checking out the divide. Mainly the northern section of the divide, as in the previous video we checked out Hopeville and Ashton. Now this is probably my favorite area in the entire Fallout series. It is difficult, the enemies are really cool, you have an incredible atmosphere, you have environmental aspects to the game, and it's just a really amazing experience, at least in my opinion. And this is the reason why I think Lonesome Road is the best DLC in Fallout New Vegas. And as I mentioned, this stretch of the game is pretty difficult, and the reason for that is that this is the final stretch of Lonesome Road before you face off against Ulysses. And honestly, that final face-off or confrontation with Ulysses is just incredible, and it really just sends home how amazing this DLC is. So let's get to it and let's check out The Divide. Now real quick, in case you don't know, or in case you haven't watched previous episodes of the Unexplored Mojave, The Divide was actually created by your character, the Courier. Now Hopeville and Ashton used to be a very prosperous settlement, and was well on its way to becoming its own nation, comparable to that of the NCR. However, one day, the Courier, your character, was delivering a package from the NCR, which happened to be Eddie, and Eddie happened to have the detonation codes for all of the nuclear missiles underneath Hopeville and Ashton, and when the Courier brought the package here, it just caused chaos, causing earthquakes, causing all of the devastation, and killing everyone here except for Ulysses and the Courier. And that's why we have this place like we see it today. So right as you come out of Sunset Tower, there's going to be a lot of nuclear warheads that you can detonate, and it's definitely to your advantage to try and locate some of them and detonate them, because it'll help clear out the area of marked men. Then over here in this corner we have some mole rats, and we'll explore that a little bit later, because there's an interesting goodie hidden there. But from the top you can take out a lot of the enemies. And then as you walk down this platform, you can actually see Ulysses, and he is actually just watching you climb down. However, you cannot interact with him in any way. He's a sort of kind of ghost figure, where there's no interaction for you, unfortunately. But as you make your way down, you can find a log, audio log from Ulysses, along with an average locked safe. But as you can see here, I'm shooting the building where Ulysses is, but nothing happens. So there is a duffel bag over here with some bottle caps and some healing items, and then we will continue to make our way down. And as we make our way down, we can find some propaganda posters, like here from the US government and Vault-Tec, along with some graffiti from Ulysses himself, telling the Courier to run away. Now I wanted to show this suitcase just because it had a lot of bottle caps in it and some chems, just showing that in this DLC, a lot of the lootable crates and stuff have a lot of good stuff in it, unlike other Fallout games. Now, having the anti-material rifle, especially in this section, was extremely useful. As the marked men try to get me from far away, they greatly struggled. Then we can find this fallen billboard, which I thought did a really good amount of world building, as it shows the silos underneath Ashton and Hopeville as a defense for America. Over here we can find the mole rats that we killed earlier, along with Private Foster's personal journal, which gives us an insight to some of the NCR activity in the area, which reads, "Jesus, this place is a hellhole. I heard it was bad from some of the guys coming back, but Jesus. Henriksen bought it when one of those unexploded warheads went off. And Jenkins. Those things got him. I don't know what they were exactly. Ghouls maybe. But nasty fuckers. LT thinks they were drawn by the explosion that killed Henriksen. I think we're all gonna die here." So obviously that dead body was a former NCR trooper that died here. And then behind all of this we can find a skeleton along with a duffel bag and a hunting rifle. So probably another victim to the horrors of the Divide. Now eventually as we progress further, we have to destroy this nuclear warhead, as you can see me struggling to do here. And once we destroy it, this building above us will collapse, blocking the way forward. And then we have to go around through a tunnel. But kind of some really cool environmental storytelling here in this DLC. Something that is not all too common within the Fallout series, which I think is rather unfortunate. If we had more environmental interaction, I think it'd be really cool. Now, eventually you can find this 3rd Street Municipal Building, and this is a location you definitely want to go to. Now, this terminal here is normally locked, but if you have the Wild Wasteland perk, the password will simply be guessed. And the reason this is only with the Wild Wasteland perk is because this is an Easter egg. It's a reference to the FX animated series Archer, which is a satire of espionage and spy thrillers, where the password for multiple high security areas is revealed to be guessed. So here we can see a reference to that show. And then we can also find some medical supplies over in the corner, but not much else on the first level. But if we go over here, we can reach this sewer system, and if we make our way through the sewer system, which has some tunnelers in it, we will come out on the next floor of the building. And on this floor, we can find a lot of good loot, and more specifically, the Elite Riot Gear armor set. This is better than the normal armor gear, riot gear, that you get from earlier in the game. So you definitely want to come over here, find this dead soldier, and then take his armor, because it's quite good and it is quite valuable. So definitely a really good find and something you want to pick up. Now at the collapsed building, there's an invisible wall which prevents you from getting over it. I tried using the reload dash jump, but I couldn't get on over it. So we have to use the cave. I was just trying to find glitches and exploits, but that didn't work. Then moving on to the Cave of the Abandoned. This cave has a ton of tunnelers in it. However, I find that this battle was actually pretty easy because this place is very large and it's easy to distance yourself from the tunnelers. If we head over to this back corner in the northwest, we can find a suitcase, and then we can find an Easter egg where we can find a dog named Seymour. This only appears with the Wild Wasteland perk, and this is an Easter egg to the TV show Futurama, and more specifically the episode Jurassic Bark, in which Fry finds his dog Seymour fossilized. And then if you saw earlier, we picked up a note in a suitcase called Sunflower Summer's Diary, and this note reads, "Dear Diary, I think we did it. We finally convinced the death merchants to hear our beautiful Mother Earth's cries. I just had a personal meeting with the base commander, who said they would be taking a long, hard look at our demands and preparing something special for us. I can't wait to see what it is. I bet it's a full nuclear disarmament." But if you know anything about Fallout lore, you know this person was a little bit unrealistic. There was no way the base commander was ever going to agree to such a thing. He was actually pretty aggressive and pretty violent. And in the note, she mentions Mother Earth's cries, and I'm pretty sure this is a reference to all of the earthquakes that were happening in the area prior to the Great War. Now, we will have to continue to fight our way out of the Cave of the Abandoned. There will be a lot of tunnelers. Now this place is really cool. While it's a short section of the game, you're just in a fully caved in section of the city, and you can see remnants of a hospital. You can actually use the auto dock to heal you. And while you're in there, if you look at the ceiling, you can actually see an upside down swimming pool. So just really cool aesthetic and attention to detail. As we exit the cave, Eddie will run away from us because he's hacked by Ulysses. So now we are on our own, truly the lonesome road. Now as you progress further, you're going to find 2 death claws that are blocking your path. Now, since my armor at this point was actually very degraded, I decided to go ahead and use a Fat Man and some Tiny Tot mini nukes in order to clear the way. Now this was pretty effective. I kind of just launched them towards the general area where the death claws were, and this actually scared them away. And then I moved up and finished them off with some more mini nukes. Now, as you clear the way, you're going to come to a fork in the road at a busted sewage pipe. Now, if you go left, you'll encounter one of the most difficult death claws in the game, and if you go right, that is the main way to go, the main way. There on the right, as you saw, there was an unexploded nuke that we have to detonate in order to get by. Now, going to the difficult death claw, you're going to enter this cave, and as you enter, it's going to collapse behind you, forcing you to fight this death claw at close range. And we can also find an NCR distress signal in here, detailing how this death claw killed an NCR troop. And here it is. The name of the death claw is Roar, and Roar indeed. He just ran at me and hit me once, and I was dead. So using my experience from Dead Wind Cavern, I decided to use a Big Kid mini nuke on the Deathclaw Roar, and it actually worked pretty well. It didn't kill me, and I was able to kill him. Now on him is Roar's Talon, and this can be crafted into a pretty good melee weapon, so definitely something you want to pick up is because it can give you a unique weapon. Inside, we can find some skeletons, and then we can listen to the NCR distress signal.
Mayday,
Mayday! Mayday! This is NCR Trooper Gleason, calling anyone listening on this channel. My platoon has been wiped out, and I am pinned down by a goddamn huge deathclaw in a place called the Divide. So far, I've been able to scare it away with flares, but I lack any explosives to kill the damn thing. Please assist. I say again, please assist. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday! This is NCR Trooper Gleason, calling anyone listening on this channel.
And we can assume that she was killed by Roar. Now, actually, Roar is afraid of flares, so if you come into this fight and don't have mini nukes, you'll probably want to use flares in order to scare him into a corner or something, and then kill him. After killing him and detonating the warhead, we can come outside and continue along our path, which there we'll see a lot of destruction because of the warhead we detonated it earlier in the video. Now, something to be aware of as you walk around this place is there's going to be a lot of snipers in the second half here. However, most of the snipers have undetonated warheads next to them, so you can easily take them out by using your detonator. Now, if we go up this ramp, we can find that snipers, or just higher up area that the marked men were using earlier, and we killed them with the undetonated warhead. Then there's a terminal up here talking about the earthquakes and how severe they were, obviously before the Great War happened. Then just lots of ammunition, as is the usual within the Divide. And then over here, I actually found a marked man that was somehow not dead, and I don't really know how he got here, but I came over and finished the job, so it was okay. Then moving on, there's this building, and there's really not much in this building, but I went over here and a scripted event happened where I was ambushed, so I just thought it was pretty cool. And there's also a metal box back here, but not much inside of it, unfortunately. But as you can see here, this marked man, this hunter, had a stealth boy, and then a few more also attacked me, so just kind of a really cool scripted event. And then also one of these guys was called Blade, so a unique NPC in the final stretch of the DLC here. Now, as you make your way towards the end, there's a location on the top of this building, which is a water treatment plant. And in here we can see an interesting encounter where tunnelers and marked men are actually fighting each other. I'm not aware of any other incidents of this happening within Lonesome Road, so a kind of cool sequence of events, and pretty easy to clear out because for the most part they're distracted on each other. Now there's also some pretty decent loot in here. We can actually find a copy of Pugilism Illustrated, which is behind these lockers inside this back room, but besides that there's not a whole bunch in here besides maybe some medical supplies and chems. Then beneath this makeshift bridge is our last location within the Divide before we move on to Ulysses, the waste disposal station. Now as I came here, I was attacked by some marked men from behind, so I killed them and went inside. Now as you enter, you're going to find this dead skeleton and a bunch of radioactive barrels, and in the middle of all of this you can find a wasteland survival guide, along with a metal box that has a lot of goodies inside of it. And as I mentioned before, but I'll go ahead and mention it again, the Wasteland Survival Guide is indeed the Wasteland Survival Guide from Fallout 3, written by the main character and Maria Brown. Then in the back of this cave, we're going to find an adventurer's pack, and once you loot him, and he has a marksman carbon on him, and take his note, you will be attacked by tunnelers. And if we read the note, we learn that, if you find this, my name is James Rubinek. I'm a trader from the hub. Thought I found a new route to Markets East. Guess I know now why no routes go through this godforsaken place. Legs broken, can't get out, and even if I could, there's those crazed ghouls and those digging things waiting for me. Please, get this note to my ex-wife, Anna. Tell her what happened. Tell her how I died. And I guess you can tell that cheating bitch I hope she's happy with that limp dick Rory Spencer. So it sounds like our friend James has had a rough life. Now as we continue through the tunnel, we will, like I mentioned before, be ambushed by a lot of tunnelers. And I actually found this to be one of the most difficult fights against tunnelers just because it's a small location. And then we will move on to Ulysses' temple. Now, I won't be covering the temple on this show just because it's part of the main story, and it's a very epic conclusion to this quest, and it's also not very long. It's mainly just story and dialogue driven, which is not really stuff I cover on this channel. So in the next episodes, we will take a look at some of the places that are destroyed by the courier's actions. As always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any recommendations for future videos, please post them in the comment section below. And as always, until next time.
Begin again in the night. Let's sway again tonight. On my shoulder, your cheek against mine. Where can we go?
The couriers finally really did it. They blew up the lands west and east of the Mojave, damning them all to hell. The act was discovered 200 years later as other couriers explored the Mojave wastes, and this road has reached its end.